This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to an extremely windy afternoon here in the Lowveld. I'm going to need to hold on to my hat. I think we are sitting here with the sleepy Nkuhuma Pride, and of course that means it's the very start of your live safari into the African wild. I'm glad you're all jumping on board for the Sunset Safari of today. We are going to come to you live from 6 different locations across Africa, and we are sitting here in the Lowveld, the Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is Lauren. I do have BK on camera, and I cannot believe the difference in the weather conditions from this morning till now. It's slightly overcast, and the wind is absolutely howling. So what that means for our Nkuhuma Pride is that they may get up a little bit earlier than normal and hopefully look for those buffalo. So this live safari is interactive. Please do talk to us. Send in any questions that you may have and any lovely comments that you may have. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. You can use the @FC on the YouTube chat stream. And kids, wherever you are, if you want to ask questions, please do. We prefer the questions from kids. You have to email us, and the address is kidsequestions@wildearth.tv. Now, it's not cold. It's 29 degrees Celsius, 84 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just extremely windy. And we were with this Lion Pride this morning, and they clearly have not done very much. But we do hope they're going to get up soon, and they're going to be hungry.
So if the lions have done nothing at all, then we have a lot of activities over here in the Masai Mara. Welcome to this savanna here. We have vultures devouring a carcass that was made possible by lions this morning from the Owino Pride. Now, if you look closely here, we have about 3 species of vultures, or maybe 2. We have the Ruppel's griffon vulture, the one jumping up around, the one that is spotted. And then we have the African white-backed vulture. A little while earlier, we had the good question. The vulture's wingspan is about a meter on each end, so makes it about 2 meters. But we have a bird that has the biggest wingspan called the albatross. So these vultures have a little bit of, I would say, 1.5 meter on full stretch. So when vultures land on a carcass, there's what we call the pecking order. So the pecking order comes all from the strongest and the biggest to the smallest. Now, Big James is gonna pan a little bit to the left, where we have the marabou stock, and then there's one little teeny tiny vulture called the hooded vulture. Now, when I talk about the pecking order, the hooded vulture is the last one on a carcass. When you look at the bill, is sharp and slightly hooked on the end, which makes it possible to devour all the small carrion that is left on the bones.
Jumbo, jumbo, hello, and very good idea if team stays with the vultures. And the last vultures I remember having seen devouring a baby elephant was like 4 years ago in a game park north of Kenya in an area called Laikipia. A number of times I have personally said I respect vultures because the vultures do a very good job. We call them the cleaning crew. I do not know what we could do without the vultures. Good afternoon. My name is David, and on camera with me is Bungay. We got some elephants to start our sunset drive. And as my friends must have told you before me, that we love questions, we love comments, and you can send them through to #WorldEarth on Twitter. Or you can also do the same at FC in the comments in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. Young ones like that, young elephants, kids questions at worldearth.tv. Now, sometimes we say elephants are in mast. And in general, that refers to the males. What are you doing there? And that is when the testosterone hormones or male hormones for the elephants are always heightened and quite high. At that particular time, should an elephant maybe get a female that is estrus, ideally they will mate. But also we have noticed at that condition, when we see lots of secretion from the temporal glands of those male elephants, they are always a little bit unstable. And we always try and give them space. But ideally, must is when male elephants are in season, if you may say in season, to be wanting to mate with females that would definitely be in estrus. Now, this youngster here, hello. I'm not sure she has learnt a lot in terms of eating, because it takes about 4 months, sometimes 6 months, for them to know what to do with their trunks. And you'll see them playing with whatever they can pick, because they're still discovering their trunk. Gerarda, you're asking how long can an elephant tusk grow? Now, what we normally see outside the body sometimes is about 3 feet or 4. Of course, Gerarda, that varies from one elephant to another, or from one population to another. And the inner part that sometimes you also do not see, it could be the same length, if not more. We have had cases of tusks that have been recorded of about 10 feet in length. So Gerarda, that varies from one elephant to another. And generally speaking, we see the males have longer and sometimes heavier tusks than the females, generally speaking. Although occasionally we have seen some cows, like that one you see there, having massive tusks. Not very warm here, so you can see the ears are not flapping as they normally do when the temperatures are high. And my plans after this is to go and look for my friend, baby elephant Jasiri.
It's also not very warm here, considering this morning in the Lowveld was very hot and sticky, humid almost. And the weather has completely changed on us. Rain was predicted. We've not had our summer rains yet here. You can see that the vegetation is still very barren, it's still very winter-esque. Little bits of greenery is popping through. Spring is definitely here, but we still need more rains in order to have the full onset of summer. Now, the Nkuhumas are here, as you can see. The Talamati Pride are not too far away, and a mega herd of buffalo. And I mean mega, as in 500 plus strong. We're almost in the middle of them this morning. These cats are hungry. Both prides, I imagine, are hungry. I haven't checked on the Talamatis yet, but I have a funny feeling with hunger, the weather, and the fact that we have a huge herd of buffalo here, we could be in for some excitement today. And I think they'll wake up sooner than normal because of the weather, so fingers crossed.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a very chilly afternoon here at &Beyond Phinda. My name is Matt, and behind the camera this afternoon we've got Craig, and we've come to the floodplain in the far eastern part of the reserve this afternoon to look for elephants, and instead we've been greeted by a lovely journey, or a tower as they are now, of giraffe, all busy feeding down below. Quite a big male in picture that you can see there, or a big bull, and then a couple of, to the right hand side of your screen, a couple of youngsters as well. And quite nice to now see, I often speak about the ossicles or the horns of them and them going bald, and now that we're above them for the first time in a very long time, you can actually see this particular giraffe bull's horns are very smooth or rounded at the top, and he's got that big callus in between his eyes, or on his head, from that fighting that they do, or the necking that they do. But all of them are actually quite relaxed this afternoon, all out in the open. There's one a little bit further to the left that's now bending down, and I can only think that it's trying to pick up a bone.
You probably can, but it's very, very strong. I'm surprised his pride hasn't moved much since this morning. We're in the exact same position. This morning was very eventful. They had the chance of hunting some buffalo, but there was too much against them. The herd is very large. As a pride, you can't risk injury. You've got a little more leeway than you have if you're a leopard. If you're a leopard, you're on your own. You've got no assistance from pride mates or cubs. You're completely on your own. Daniel, you're asking about scent marking territory, and leopards and lions are very much similar in that aspect. They will use urine, absolutely. In the urine, there is a marking fluid that contains lots and lots of chemical compounds, way more than we can ever imagine, and all these compounds signal different things, and they will be unique to the Nkuhumas. So if another lion comes up, they will be able to smell it and identify, this is the smell of the Nkuhumas. So no two lion pride will have the same sort of ratio of compounds in their marking fluid. And also, they use sebaceous glands that are on their cheeks where the whiskers are. There's actually special sebaceous glands at the bottom of the hair shaft and the follicle, and it releases sebum. This also contains chemical cues about who they are. And although it doesn't sound very pleasant, feces actually contains a lot of chemical compounds for scent marking as well. So they don't do this with the intention of scent marking, but when they do the toilet, then other sort of predators in the area, especially other lions, will know that it's Nkuhumas. Lions also rely on vocalizations for territory patrol, for territory marking. They will vocalize. And of course, lions' vocalizations can carry very far. And by you continually vocalizing, you're letting any neighbors know that this is your territory. So I hope that answers your question, Daniel. We're going to sit tight and hope these cats wake up soon.
Talk about vocalization. Lions, we have vultures here also vocalizing. We have the lappet-faced vulture that has joined in, and the African white-back vulture and the Ruppel's griffon vulture, including one of the storks called the marabou storks. Now, all the vultures are standing in line waiting for the lappet-faced vulture to get his fill, and then they'll join in. Now, because of his size, also called the Nubian vulture. It's so big that it bullies the other vultures. So talking about the hierarchy, so he has to eat first, of course, and then look at all them watching him as he eats. So they have to wait patiently, because if any one of them tries to get to there, look what happened. Yeah, that's what you get if you try get closer to the lappet-faced vulture. I like the way he walks, like a Dracula. They have that Dracula walk style. See, the stalk is also getting something there. Not sure if he will be bullied as well, but the lappet-faced vulture has to take his full. He's on the carcass by himself, and so the rest have to wait until his hard is filled, and then they join in. Seems like a pair there.
Well, many birds, and especially the vultures, when they go feasting, they'll always feast in flocks. But now we got marabou storks, and Tim was talking earlier about the wingspan of some of the vultures. And look at that. Some of the birds with the largest wingspans in Africa, or rather in the world, are the marabou storks. I think Tim had one marabou stork, and I think I got about 5. Quite a number of them here. And some of the wingspans of these storks will go up to 3 meters. Anything 2 point something to almost 3 meters wingspan. Of course, they are heavy bodies. They need some huge wings to keep them in the air. But now, looking at them closely, I'm seeing some kind of breeding maybe going on here. And the one that you just saw with the wings out has a very huge sac. The sac is pretty big, and it's ballooned. Look at that one there, either full of air, and that happens during the breeding. Quite a number of birds will have a lot of courtship dancing during breeding. I'm talking about ostriches, the grey crown cranes, and now the marabou storks. And unlike the cranes, where you'll see them in twos during the courtship dance, a male and a female, the marabou storks will always do breeding in colonies. I want to spend a few more minutes here and see what may happen if the male will continue exciting the female.
Welcome back, everybody, to Ambient Panda, where just as you left us, we suspected that one of the giraffe was picking something up, a bone. Have a look at that one on the left now as it tosses its head back. It's just picked up a bone, and it's busy chewing on that bone, trying to get all of the calcium and what's left of it out of that bone, and it obviously just throwing it around in its mouth, trying to manipulate that, and that's called osteophagy. Tanya, you asking how many species of giraffe we've got here in Punda? We've just got the one in picture that you see here, the plains giraffe. All and very much like that out in the open plains. I'm actually quite chuffed they're out there. And in an area like this, I mean, we could find things like cheetah that will obviously hunt in open areas like this. And maybe that's something that a cheetah killed a while back that they are now busy chewing on the bones of. But they're all now standing out in the open quite nicely. A couple of them closer to us, or the one on the right at least, also bent down to pick a bone up. And just as if they going down for a drink of water, they splay those front legs are quite wide. They do the splits with those and then bend over to pick it up and then stand back up again. But the two younger ones, you can actually see 1 or 2 oxpeckers on their backs. And earlier on, the one had about 8 or 9 oxpeckers, and it did a bit of a jump, like a running kick, like Billy Elliot. It was actually quite amusing to watch. And then it skedaddled off. Obviously, just getting a little bit frustrated with those oxpeckers. But now as they move through these open plains, if there is something like a cheetah lying somewhere out here in the open, these giraffe would definitely be quite an aid for us this afternoon. Now just stay fixed in that area, and if that is the case, we'll have to go and investigate and see. Hopefully we strike gold.
Everybody's up. Purple Eye is up. I think that's Purple Eye. Yep. She's up. They hear the buffalo. Eden, you are 9 years old. Look at beautiful Purple Eye here. They hear the buffalo. They're coming from behind us, I think. Eden, of course they're not scared of water. They have been living out here in the wild since they were born. So they're used to the seasonal changes. They go through very harsh, cold and dry winters, sometimes so dry that they don't have much delicious food to eat. It's not so much around. There's not much water around. And then they'll go through lush, plentiful summers where there's so much water and there's so much food. So they're used to being rained on. I'm not entirely sure if they like it, but they are used to it. It's good for their skin as well, and it's completely necessary for the environment. So they're definitely not scared of it, but you won't find them swimming in the dams, unfortunately. They do swim in some other areas of Africa, but sadly, I've never seen it here.
Very good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to the wonderful and magical landscape of Tswalu Kalahari. My name is Kyle and behind camera is David. And together we'll be taking you and getting lost in that vastness right over there. We've got a few antelope in the scene right now. Obviously, it's quite warm today. It's starting to warm up. Every day is getting warmer and warmer. We're about 26 degrees. And in the picture, you can see the heat rays coming off from the ground. But these guys are well adapted to withstand these very, very hot conditions that we're starting to experience now. Some of them in the shade, and some of them not. So physiological adaptations or behavioral adaptations allow these antelope to survive within these very harsh and dry environments. Look at that. So on the right, that is a red hartebeest, and on the left of the picture, the antelope with a black and white face, those are oryx, or gemsbok, as we call them in South Africa. Really amazing antelope.
The lappet-faced vulture is still on the carcass. The other vultures, the Ruppel's griffon vulture and the African whiteback vulture, are waiting in line. I can see the marabou swallowing something. Now, the marabou stock has a very interesting story about it. When you look closely or keenly on the legs, you'll see that there's a white residue on the legs. Now, the white residue is from dried urine. They deposit that on the legs, and this is a behavior called urohydrosis, for the reason of evaporative cooling. Now, when it's hot, these stalks will deposit the urine on their feet or legs. That helps them cool their body, which is so interesting. I like calling them the undertaker birds. See, walking back and forth, checking on if there's some carrion there. You can see it's swallowing something. Now the king, or the lappet-faced vulture, has taken over, and everyone else is waiting in silence, not sure when he will leave, but they're hoping the lappet-faced vulture will leave soon. Miley, thank you so much for your question. Now, vultures are different from raptors or birds of prey. Vultures generally don't hunt. They always scavenge. That is typical for vultures. They'll only wait until there's a dead animal. Sometimes they're known to wait for ailing animals walking, knowing that they will drop dead. So vultures don't hunt. They always scavenge for food. The lappet-faced vulture is actually the king. Look at how the others are watching. But soon all these vultures will be leaving this sighting because it's almost raining, and I'm sure they don't like getting wet, because if they're wet with their wings heavy, they'll not be able to fly off.
All right, don't like getting wet. We've got no clouds this side to get wet. We've only got clear skies. There's not a cloud in the sky this afternoon, ladies and gents. So really nice to see two different species of antelope mixing and intermingling like this. It's obviously a very, very important formation, is where you have extra eyes and ears to stay out of the big claws and teeth of carnivores. And obviously the horns, being antelope found out in the open areas, both male and female will have horns within both of these species, the oryx and as well as the red hartebeus. What beautiful scenery in the background. Wow. Oh, nice question there from Oscar. Do these antelopes have nerves in their horns? Oscar, yes. It won't be found throughout the horn. It'll only be found within the beginning or the very front part of that horn. So from the basal section of the skull going up, maybe a good ruler's length, up into the horn, you'll have very sensitive nerves. So if a horn does get broken, that antelope will feel it. The very tippy tips of the horns are thick parts of keratin, so there will be no feeling in the horns there. And if a horn is broken, unfortunately, it's like a bone. It will not regrow. And it's not uncommon to see oryx, especially the bulls, with one horn. We also have a few here on Tswalu who have got no horns. They obviously the competition is so stiff for mating rights that they really, really do take a beating. We're just going to move up a little bit. Just bear with me, just so we can get a better view on them. They've just moved here behind all these beautiful camel thorns. It's really a super view that we got of them. Aha! Ooh, and we got something else. Fantastic. Look at that. Plains zebra in the middle of the picture there. So all these herbivores being together, obviously safety in numbers, but then they will be feeding on different species of grass and as well as different parts of the grass. So there'll be no direct competition between all these antelope, or let's say hooved ungulates. Tails wagging vigorously to chase away the biting flies. We've got a very specialized flying little fly, but it's actually a chunky fly called a cattle louse fly. There's a lot of them here, and they actually bite the antelope. So having a nice long tail is a very efficient tool to try and waft them away.
Now, when you talk about competition, zebras and oryx don't have competition because there's lots of grass. But here, when you talk about predators, there's lots of competition. And this lion has come to where the carcass is. Of course, he was attracted by the vultures soaring up in the air. Now, his name is Blondie. Blondie was following the Owino Pride last evening, as they were busy trying to hunt. Now, because of his lame leg or injured leg, he could not keep up the pace. So the Owino left him. They came and hunted this morning a young wildebeest. Now, because the 3 lionesses were hungry, they've wiped out almost the entire kill. Now, the vultures, I don't think they've left something for him. Too bad for Blondie. But maybe he might scrap something from the carcass. He's looking very disappointed, but that is the way to go here. Joshua, thank you for your question. Wow, yes, lions can hunt birds as well, especially when there's an opportunity. When an opportunity arises, lions will go after anything. I've seen lions go up even for snakes. I've seen them trying to get tortoise. Of course, tortoise has a shell. So, yes, they will go definitely after a bird. If the lion was walking closely and very softly and got close to a vulture, he would have definitely got the vulture. So Blondie here, he has no option but to scrap off from the leftovers. See, wow. Yes, he's picked the entire shell or the skin to scrap off from what's left over. So when lions, especially when they're ousted out from a territory, they become scavengers. Even though he was once a pride male, after his tenure, he becomes a scavenger. Too bad. So he will join other small lions that have already been kicked out of their pride, and they form up a unit together. Now, because he's alone, he has to follow the Owino pride and scavenge with them. So he's gonna be turning around and checking on the carcass and at least eat whatever's been left. Yeah, we have the front part, so he has at least best of luck.
One call from the buffalo, and they were all up. They know exactly where they are. BK and I can't actually see them, but we can hear them. But the Nkahuma ladies, at least the adults, there's 7 of them here, they know exactly where those buffalo are. They're keeping their eyes on the prize, on the target, so that when they are all ready to wake up, they're going to travel together and see what the situation is like. Polly, you're asking how many males are in this pride. Now, that's an interesting question because regarding adult males, they're not technically really part of the pride. The Avokas are in a coalition of their own. There's 3 of them, and they are the dominant males around. And what that means is that they will sort of take charge of different prides. So they reside over a large territory, and within that, you'll have different prides of lionesses, and they have the Nkahumas and the Talamates. But there's lots of male cubs, and we'll come back to that in just a moment and try to identify who we have here.
All right, welcome back. Very beautiful setting here. And in the mix of things, these plains zebra are also having a little late afternoon lunch. They are grazers, so that means their mouth parts are specifically designed to eat on grass. And looking at the beautiful black and white patterning on this animal, it's very easy to recognize that this is a plains zebra. So if you can see that nice thick black line around the bum or the rump area, you have the black line, you have the white line, and then you have a nice black line. In between those 2 black lines is like a grey line. We call that stripe, the shadow stripe, a very, very prominent feature found on plain zebra. Whereas another species we have here on Tswalu called the mountain zebra does not have that shadow stripe, giving it a very clean finish. So just looking at the rump, very easy to recognize this specific species. Really amazing creature. So the stripes are an adaptation to allow the animal to blend in the environment and trick a predator's eyes.
I'm going live. Everyone's starting to wake up, and this is known as sort of pride contagious behavior because the bonds are so tight-knit within a lion pride. Once one lioness starts to wake up, if you just look over here at Purple Eye BK, you can see that she's alert. She's had her eyes on the buffalo for quite some time. And there's a lioness behind her. I'm pretty sure it's Amber Eyes, who's got one leg wrapped around her body, almost like they're spooning. Now, they are affectionate. They do like to sort of stay in close contact with one another. There's also another reason. She's sleeping. And if Purple Eye gets up, that will immediately wake Amber up because they all have to move together. No one wants to be left behind. We've got Nick Ear here, we've got Pale-Eyed Lioness, I think we've got Chilla, Purple, Amber, and two are sleeping. I haven't managed to see exactly who the sleepyheads are yet. But when they start grooming themselves, they all allo groom, but it's very contagious. And contagious behavior is said to lead to stronger group bonds within the animal kingdom, and it's related to empathy as well. It's really important that this pride are in tune with one another, if you like. Yes, they can separate, yes, they can venture off, but they must come back together. They live for the pride. They will not be able to sort of look after so many offspring and stay strong if they're not together. Safety in numbers. And these lionesses are fierce. I really do feel like we might have a hunt on our hands today. We're going to have to follow these lines very carefully. But you can see Purple Eye right at the back here has not changed her gaze. She has been watching her one eye on a buffalo. They can hear them, they can smell them. The wind is probably bringing the scent to their nostrils, which is why they're awake. So I really do believe we're in for an exciting afternoon.
So, lions have a very strong sense of smell. Look at what we have here. This lion was way, way, way far from where we left him. So lions have a very strong sense of smell.
Well, from lions on a buffalo carcass to how it all plays out, we were driving along and we just saw lions being scattered in all directions, and that's because they're trying to hunt this herd of buffalo that is right here. So Lauren is with the Nkuhuma pride on the other side of this herd of buffalo, and this is the Talamati pride that is trying to basically hunt these guys, and they've been given a bit of a hiding. They were trying to be on the back of a buffalo, and the whole herd just rushed in and they've chased them, and now we've got this kind of standoff that's taking place. And this is never great for the lions because the buffalo have now organized themselves, and so it becomes even harder for the lions to be able to tackle them. But this is going to be crazy. It just goes to show when you get big herds of buffalo that you attract a lot of attention, particularly in this area. There's been such a kind of lack of buffalo that when the lions hear them, they try and get after them as quick as possible. And it's going to be a complicated afternoon in some respects because these poor buffalo, if they run from this pride, they're going to then be pushed further into the other pride that's busy trying to kind of hunt them from the other side. So absolutely crazy. So Jan de Villiers, this pride's last meal, as far as we can tell, was not last night, the night before. They seem like they caught something quite small. So it's not like they haven't eaten in the last few days, but it is a very big pride. There's 15 lions in total without the male here, and they're quite large now. So most of the young ones are getting to over a year old, which means that they need a lot of food to keep them going. You can see there's a couple young boys where their manes are just starting, and so for them, food is a difficult thing to come by. They need to find big meals regularly, and so that even though they ate 2 nights ago, they will be hungry, and what you're going to get is this going to be the slow whittling down of these buffalo over the course of the afternoon. But for now, it seems like the lions have basically thought to themselves, well, we're not going to be able to go after these buffalo just yet. They've organized themselves too well, and as soon as they can then see a chink in the armor, they'll then maybe try again. And it's going to require the big male, and I'm not sure if he's with them today, to play a part in that, because obviously his weight and his size is going to be of importance. But you see there's a bull buffalo coming forward now, and what you'll find is every now and then these buffalo will just slowly start to push towards the lions, and then they kind of rush at them and they try and just sort of get them away a little bit, and they try and keep the distance. And you can actually see the debris on that buffalo's horns from where he was thrashing about. Now when we spotted them at first, there was just lions exploding everywhere and buffalo hitting bushes. It was just came around the corner and there was just this craziness. But watch him come forward. Can you hear him? And you can hear the lions growling as well. So, Leanne, we don't know what will happen if these two prides meet up in this situation. If they were on a kill, it might be a little bit different, because these two prides actually are related. Many, many years ago, they split into form the Nkuhumas and Talamatis. So they are relations of one another, but they've spent so much time apart that generally they consider each other as competition. And when there's been big carcasses, there's actually been reported cases of them feeding together on the same carcass. But in a hunt situation, it would cause absolute chaos, because no one would know who is who. There would be buffalo stampeding around, and it would become very difficult. And then you would find that there would probably be massive fights that would break out. And the reason for that would be because there's so many young lions in both prides that their confusion and their movement would trigger the females to be very distressed, and you'd find then lions chasing each other all over the place, and with the mix of buffalo, it would make life very, very difficult. Absolutely crazy. But maybe this is a good time, now that all the buffalo just turned and kind of moved off, just to tell you who I am and introduce myself. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got Niels this afternoon, so it's absolutely crazy turn of events. I didn't think we'd see this afternoon. I thought they would wait until much later in the afternoon in order to be able to hunt. I expected them to basically try and sort of use the night and the cover of the night and the wind that's going to be picking up this afternoon in order to try and kind of move it into their favor. But it seems as though it was too tempting, and so they've decided to have a crack this afternoon. But I wonder if the commotion of what just happened, look, there comes one coming forward now. So some of the younger lions are quite intrigued by this whole process, and they're trying to kind of come forward every now and then and just stalk towards the buffalo. But the noise of these sort of interactions and these grunts and groans, as well as the lions, might attract the attention of the other pride. And like I say, it's going to be a very, very, very intriguing afternoon, that's for sure. But so far, buffalo 1, lions 0 at this stage. I don't know if it'll stay like that through the course of today, but we'll have to just try and be patient and wait and see what happens. Ridiculous. This is, like I say, one of those eternal battles that has raged for centuries, and so it's one of the most fascinating things to witness, how these lions kind of go back and forth with these buffalo until they try and find a weakness within the herd. So we're going to be patient. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more interaction as the afternoon continues.
I agree. It's going to be an interesting afternoon. It sounds like the Talamatis are a little bit more awake than the Nkuhumas, and these prides do know one another. There's a relation of sorts from many years ago, and they have been seen in the past, not while I've been here, feeding on kills together, but then they have also been seen clashing with lots of aggression. So I'm not sure what would happen if these prides are pushed together today. There's lots of theories on their movements and why they're moving, and that's okay. We don't know the answers. They're hungry. We hope they hunt. The Nkuhumas have definitely sort of expanded their territory. They're not always here. So it's such a pleasure to have them here on Djuma. And with a huge herd of buffalo like that around, apparently heading our way, we can only hope for the best. Lions don't need to eat every day. BK, if we just look at that cute moment. Scratch yourself and look. One of the elders. But if we just look at this boy, I think it's Ridge-nosed boy at the front here, you can see he's very skinny. So he definitely needs a good meal. In fact, they all do. Michelle, I have no idea how long their claws are, I'm afraid. They're protractile claws. Some people call them retractile claws, but actually it's not the correct term because the muscular contractions that sort of push them out from that protective sheath push them outwards. The resting state is actually in, so they don't retract, they protract. But as for how long, I really don't know, I'm afraid, Michelle. I would imagine they would differ between different ages, the genders, but I do know that they're extremely sharp, and you can't see them right now because they're hidden in very protective sheaths, and for that reason it keeps them nice and sharp because they rely on these sharp claws for hunting. And if the claws were to get blunt from walking around all day in the rough terrain, that means they would not be so successful at hunting. That's why they are protected, and they're pushed out by muscular contractions. I'm really intrigued to see how this afternoon's going to go. But it seems my Nkuhumas are enjoying the grooming a little bit too much this afternoon.
Seems as though most of the lions are starting to kind of drop their heads, particularly the adults. It's the young ones that are very interested in these buffalo, but the young ones are kind of going to get taught a very valuable lesson quite quickly. The adults are all sort of lying heads down, pretending as though they don't care too much. They know that the buffalo have formed up too much right now to go after them, and so what they're probably hoping for is that the buffalo start to move a little bit, and they can then try and figure out another angle to come from and try and use the wind and these kinds of things to be able to somehow separate an individual out of this massive herd. Now, we only can see a very, very small portion of the grouping. This particular herd is probably close to about 500 buffalo, and we're only seeing the sort of front end of it, and most of these buffalo that we're seeing at the front here are the big bulls. They normally the ones that will take the onus of protecting the herd and making sure that they keep the lions at bay. And so what the lions will do is pretend to be disinterested for a while, and then once they spot a certain member that's maybe just fallen out of line a little bit or shown a bit of weakness, they might then strike there. So it's going going to be a game of just back and forth, or cat and mouse, if you want to call it, until such time as one of them decides they are not having any of it and moves off. But it's going to be a really uncomfortable afternoon for the buffalo particularly, because, like I say, there's not only do they have this pride, but they have a pride that's on the southern side of them to worry about, and they've got this huge amount of wind, so they can't hear what's going on, and they can only confront what they can see. And if these lions can somehow reposition and move around in some way, you never know, they might be able to pick one off in the chaos. So it's going to be a very, very, very interesting afternoon, that's for sure. So Rambele, the Telematis are 15 without the males, and the Inkuhuma 16 without the males the last time I counted. But so the thing with the Inkuhumas though is they have two of the evokers with them most of the time, so that brings them up to 18, and the Telematis generally have one evoker with them, which brings them to 16. So but yeah, they both pretty similar sized prides. They both obviously are. Ooh, that's a big buffalo. Do you see how that buffalo is grunting? It's such a pity there's so much wind, because the noises are amazing. Look, look, look. There we go. That's lions being scattered by buffalo. They are all trying their very best to look as though they're big, brave cats, but these buffalo are giving them an absolute run around at this stage, and it will continue like this. Is not going to stop anytime soon. We're going to find that this is going to keep going. But you see how the adults are typically lying more towards the back, and it's mostly the sub-adults that were in front, and they all scattered quickly. They aren't as brave as the parents, and everyone just lies down again and waits, and this is how it's going to be until such time as one decides this is not worth the effort. Thomas, most definitely. So I've seen personally 2 different lions being killed by buffalo. It happens not regularly, but it does happen. What often is the case is a lion, particularly inexperienced ones, will sometimes get caught where they get to the side. There it goes. I'm going to just stay where I am. I'm not going to move too much, but basically the lions get caught coming from the front of the buffalo, and those horns then get them often in the stomach, and both lions that I saw being killed were disemboweled. So the horn caught them on the inside of their back legs, and with them trying to toss this lion, pulled all the way up and basically cut the stomach open. And so this buffalo is just chasing these lions all over the place. It's just this one bull that is very upset about life. He's causing havoc. Okay, boy. But you would expect that the lions would retreat further, but they know it's just a game of patience and back and forth, and eventually maybe they'll get it right. So just have to be patient. But here come the young males, look. And this is vital experience for the young males, because they need to learn how to do this, especially because as they get older, they're going to become a huge part of this pride. There's 3 different males in this grouping that are of the size that they could start potentially learning how to bring down these buffalo bulls. And the older they get, the more this pride is going to benefit from their size and their strength. For now, though, the females are not as interested, that's for sure. Okay, well, we're not going to go anywhere. This is going to be fascinating to watch, and let's hope that the lions can muster their strength and gather their numbers again.
I can just imagine it's fascinating, and I'm hoping things change up at this side as well. Tristan and I are really not too far away from one another with 2 separate prides. And one of the most fascinating things for me about buffalo is why has evolution blessed them with the Inability to defend themselves. So they're huge animals. They could easily escape lions if they wanted to. They really could. They travel sort of in vast numbers. They're equipped with weapons on their head, powerful weapons, and they've got a huge body mass. I'm sure, as Tristan said, they really could injure lions if they really wanted to. But generally speaking, they don't. And yes, there's a few examples online where a buffalo has fought back. But in general terms, they don't. The lions always win. And it's thought that maybe the buffalo in general are successful enough as a species that natural selection haven't evolved their sort of intelligent capacities to figure out how to defend themselves against the apex predators, if that makes sense. It's not that they're not intelligent, they are, but they haven't figured out that they really could challenge every single lion that tried to attack them. They don't evade them. Where's their evasion skills? And it's just thought that they are successful enough. The numbers of buffalo are high enough, and therefore the lions need to control them. So in this sort of evolutionary arms race, the lions always win. Isn't it fascinating? Yes, you're all hoping that both prides get dinner tonight. Me too. I hope the Talamatis are successful and the Nkuhumas are successful, but buffalo hunts are very difficult to watch. So I think that will be the challenging aspect, but I hope they all get fed.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, the prides both of them could do with the meal, that's for sure. But I still think it's going to be very, very, very tricky for either pride to come right. It's such a big herd with so many large buffalo bulls in it that they're going to have to cause some sort of panic and get a young buffalo out separated or an injured one separated somehow and hope that the rest of the herd doesn't come at them. But the chances of that is going to be quite slim. So I think they've got the odds stacked against them in many, many ways. Also because both prides have so many members that are young and inexperienced. If you had a situation where you had 12 adult lionesses in both prides, different story. But both prides are only a few adult females, and they really are going to struggle against a herd this size. You need all the male lions to be around in order to cause any sort of effect. And so the three Avocas would be most welcome to come together and help out in terms of the hunt this afternoon. It would make a massive, massive difference, that's for sure. But isn't this incredible that we get to watch this play out live, and we get to see this every kind of day, and we get to watch it all together, and we can chat to you guys at home. So remember, you can use #WildEarth or at FC on the YouTube chat streams. Then you can ask us any questions that you have. But it's absolutely amazing to me that we get to share this with so many people across South Africa and the rest of the world. And the fact that we get it playing out in real time is always so, so, so special. I think we've reached a hiatus for now, but it certainly is not going to stop for the rest of the afternoon. It's going to be one of those things where it's, I think, going to continue to play out well into the night. That's for sure. For now, the lions are just taking it easy. The buffalo are going back to grazing, and I think that we're going to see a bit of a hiatus before the next bout of energy.
All right, we've decided just to sneak into a watering hole and see what it is we could find here. And we've got a very large group of wattled starlings. These are young ones in picture. And this year we have found quite a high number of these birds. As in with myself, I haven't seen such large numbers of these birds in the past 3 years that I've been working at Tswalu. Nice yellow canary. Look at that color. Wow. That is a male. Very heavy beak designed to feed on seeds and scoop in the water and then obviously swallowing from there. There's a lot of activity. The proximity of the bushes being very close to the water's edge makes it a prime spot for birding here. as in where the birds, if in any sign of danger, can go from the water's edge back up to this thick brush line over here to stay obviously out of the strong and formidable talons of raptors. Just that's another group of starlings. They're all chattering away, doing a little bit of preening. They'd also come down to the water's edge now and do a little bit of bathing, just to remove parasites, to keep the feathers nice and clean. That's your best dress. So you have to make sure that you keep them in good shape. These guys are insect eaters, but they'll also eat fruit occasionally and nectar. Seeds along the line have been recorded as well, but very busy birds. And in the breeding season, hence the name wattled starling, the male will have this big, dark wattle extending from his chin downwards. Dave, would you just come to the right-hand side over here? Oh, there it flies. We've also got some little scaly feathered weavers. We have seen them before. See on the right here, just in this blackthorn, David. Just up a little bit. Tiny little birds are always a challenge to find. Susan, that is the great thing about birding. Being a birder myself, it's always really exciting seeing new birds. And the thing is that you can be anywhere, and there is a very high chance that you could see a new bird species, which makes it super, super exciting. I love that. I travel far and wide. I will drop my dinner if I have to get a new bird species on my checklist. David, just go to the water's edge there quickly. What else is there? There's also a beautiful black and white bird, our beautiful blacksmith lapwing, in the mix of things with the starlings. Very, very busy. And like I said, there's so many of these birds here this year, which is great. That black and white bird on the left-hand side of the picture coming to the middle, he'll be going after aquatic insects or crustaceans. And his long legs like that enable him to get into a section of the pan which other birds would not be feeding, so eliminating competition. But how beautiful are those colors? Wow. And what we're hoping for is sitting over here and hopefully something gets drawn into the water. Beautiful bird. So this pan providing a nice habitat for a lot of insects, making it perfect for this bird.
Well, as you can see, still at the same point with these guys. Neither of them have decided to kind of give an inch at this stage, although I do suspect that the lions will keep retreating for now. I'm pretty sure that they're just trying to regroup a little bit and try and kind of figure out what the next step is going to be. If you watch all the adult lionesses, so that's all the youngsters in front where the buffalo are, and if you see the adult lionesses are all close to us here at the back, lying down. And in fact, I think this lioness here, I'm not sure if it happened today, but it looks like she's got a little wound on her side, so maybe she was nicked by a buffalo in the course of this hunt earlier, because like I say, when we first spotted them, there was one that was definitely on the back of a buffalo. It looks quite healed though, so it doesn't look like it's a fresh thing that's happened now. And then there was just lions that got scattered as the herd came through. So I think the lionesses are just sitting at the back. They're waiting for the afternoon to change a little bit and for it to get a little bit darker. And then I think they'll start actually moving to the sort of forefront of what's going on. But even then, as I was mentioning earlier, there's so many big bulls in this herd that the chances for these girls to get this right without the big males is going to be very difficult. What is interesting, though, is the buffalo are now turning, and you can see they kind of walking away from us, but where they're walking is now directly towards where Lauren is. So if they continue that exact sort of direction that they're going, and they keep going in a southwesterly direction, they'll be with Lauren within 10 minutes. So that gives you an idea of just how close we are to the Nkuhumas and why this could turn into a very intriguing interaction between the prides more than actually the buffalo themselves, because I think if both prides see each other, the hunt might actually, in some ways, be forgotten, and it'll be more of a territorial dispute. And you'll start to hear roaring, and you'll start to see a lot of displaying from each individual as they try to kind of work out, one, who is who, and two, try and defend themselves and their young ones. But for now, it's just that kind of lull a little bit in these hunts that takes place. You get this often when there's buffalo and lion interactions. It's kind of peaks and troughs that continue to roll through the event. Eventually, like I say, one will give up basically, and it's normally the lions. The lions normally admit defeat before the buffalo do, and they then just start to fall asleep and kind of move off. But it'll be interesting, that's for sure. So we're going to just stay tight in the spot, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of action as the afternoon plays out.
We're going to go to the... Alrighty. So there's a few more bird species that have come down to the water's edge that we're going to take a look at, but there's a really beautiful iridescent green bird that is... Oh, look at that. Look at that. Red-faced mouse birds. Really beautiful birds. Nice red facial marking around the eye, hence the name red-faced mouse bird. It's a new one for our list there that we haven't seen yet. But there is a swallow-tailed bee-eater flying around this pan so elegantly, and it's posing it... Oh, it's back on that tree there, David, to the left. It's back on the same tree. Just look at this color, ladies and gents. Look at this bird. Oh, my word, then there he takes off again. It's a really nice challenge. Oh, wow. He just snatched something from the surface of the water. They are very, very elegant flyers. And what that bird will be doing is flying and catching aerial insects. When we do see it again, we'll point it out. Should come. He goes to certain perching points. And from that perching point, he will take a look. Nice look across the area, spot any potential prey, and then once he has spotted it, come in. Wow, there's so many new species today. It makes me happy. It makes me smile. Always a privilege to be in an area where we can see new species. For me, it's a big drive in my guiding career. Is first and foremost birding, going to different areas and finding new birds, but then also when it comes to trees and insects, you name it. Beautiful African red-eyed bulbul, nice yellow vent being displayed. The bulbul family all possess those yellow vents. Dave, can you jump in there for us? Can you get a bit closer, just the bottom of that beautiful camel thorn? There we go. What is that there? Oh, there's a new bird for us as well. Oh, my word. That is a bunting, ladies and gentlemen. And how we know it's a bunting is from that... Is it flown off, Dave? Okay, go in a bit for me. Just hold on with me, guys. There, just go a bit closer. There we go. To the right. There we go. Yes. Yes. Look at the black and white stripy head. From that feature, we can be sure that that is a bunting species. And we have a few different species of bunting here in Tswalu, which is very, very nice for birders. This is a cinnamon-breasted bunting. A beautiful black and white head with that nice cinnamony color chest or breast. Fantastic bird.
It is a fantastic bird, but as you can see, one of the young males thought he was going to be very brave and started to follow some of the bull buffaloes. They turned and started to walk away, and he got quickly taught a lesson and was pushed straight back to the rest of them, and is now lying down as though he didn't do anything. But he most certainly got given a very, very, very quick lesson as to who's actually in charge of the current standing at the moment, and it's most certainly these buffalo bulls. They are enforcing their power over these lions at the moment and keeping them at bay. But like I say, it's a game of attrition, and what's been very, very interesting to watch is how the adult females have been more than happy to watch the youngsters try, and they're learning valuable lessons from this. And what we've been seeing is as the buffalo start to turn, you can see the younger individuals become very intrigued, and they actually stand up and start to move behind the buffalo, and we've started to see them even start to try and flank a little bit, and then they kind of get retreated back, and so it keeps happening. And so I think in many ways, even though the adult females are not hugely interested in trying to actually catch one of these buffalo, there's really valuable kind of learning experience for the younger individuals, particularly the young males and young females. They're very quickly learning how to hunt buffalo, and that's going to be important going forward, because as this pride develops and as these younger individuals grow, so buffalo is going to become more and more and more part of their diet. So far up until this point, because of the lack of buffalo, they've been hunting a lot of zebra, a lot of wildebeest, kudu, waterbuck, those kinds of things, but that's not really going to fill the tummies often enough or for long enough to sustain them. So they'll start trying to have buffalo now that we have buffalo in this area. So, Julia, yes, prides do steal kills from each other, especially bigger prides on smaller prides. If you find, let's say, hypothetically, the Nkuhumas came across the Shimungwe female with just her cub, they would most certainly run her off and take that kill from her. In the case of these two prides, it's going to be fascinating from the point of view that it's very similar numbers and very similar in terms of the number of actual adults within the group. So that's why it will fascinate me to see if the two come into contact with one another, because it'll be really, really interesting to see who gives way. We know historically that this is Nkuhuma's normal hangouts. I mean, they lately have been pushing more south, but historically this is where they've called home. And now all of a sudden, you know, you've got this pride in the area that's pushing into what they would deem to be theirs. I think you're going to be a very kind of interesting response from them to the Talamati. So we'll see what happens. It's all on the line this afternoon, that's for sure.
So the Nkuhumas are definitely wakening up now. They can hear. It's much cooler. We're losing a little bit of light because of the conditions today. Everybody's yawning. Everybody's scratching. Everybody's doing the toilet, which is delightful. I really don't know how this afternoon is going to play out. I know that the buffalo are really not far away from us. And they've been keeping their eyes and ears to the ground the entire afternoon, although they were sleeping. This pride knew exactly where the buffalo were going. I don't think it's going to be long before they get up. I know I keep saying this, but I really don't think it's going to be long. The buffalo are just on the other side of Treehouse Dam, apparently making their way right towards us. BK and I feel very lucky this afternoon. I think between all of us, we're going to see some action. You can see the cubs are getting really playful over here, you see that? Once they all start waking up, there's no stopping them. I haven't actually managed to do a cub count. I know we've got 7 lionesses. And they're all scratchy, they've all got patches of hair loss, including some of the adults as well. It's not just been the cubs, but it definitely affected the cubs the most, the mange, and it's left them with big scars, big patches of hair loss. MJ, you are right, lions everywhere. And if you think about it, sometimes the team here in Djuma drive ourselves crazy because we can never find any animals. And over the past, well, at least today, we've got 2 prides in really close proximity with one another. So yes, MJ, lions everywhere. as soon as one lioness gets up, they're all going to follow. It just takes one to start walking and moving, and they'll all follow. Oof, that looks good, doesn't it? We went months at the start of the year without seeing the Ingahumas. Months and months. It was such a long time. And they finally came back. They took over Djuma from the Styx Pride. I love it when they do that. Oh, that must be the spot. That's the sweet spot. Oh, yeah. She's got a few patches of blood on her neck there. I don't know if it's just a burst tick or if it's an injury. Very, very small little patches. Isn't Amber just beautiful? Look at her eyes. She's so stunning. Okay, I feel that they're starting to get up now. Oh, no, they're back down again. But I really don't think it's going to be long.
Well, I don't think it's going to be long at all because the buffalo are now hightailing it straight towards where Lauren is and the Telematis are in pursuit. So they're starting to follow now. We're going to try and just keep up with them as they go. The buffalo are kind of just moving straight ahead of us. I can see them maybe about 100 meters ahead of where we are. So there's a big termite mound coming up, and I suspect that the lions will make use of that termite mound. They'll go up on top there, and then they'll watch the buffalo from that area. But it's going to be this constant kind of movement that we're going to see. But you see how as soon as one retreats, the other kind of pushes forward. And again, you know, the lions gave way, now the buffalo give way, and the lions are coming forward. So it's going to be like this the whole afternoon. Hopefully, eventually, one of them will have some sort of success, because it's a lot of lions to be hunting one herd of buffalo, that's for sure. And I'm pretty sure these guys are going to attract the attention of the Nkuhumas. So here we go. Here's the whole pride. Can you hear them? Now, I bet you some of them are going to come up the mound next to us here. Here come some of the boys. They are looking amazing. That's absolutely as good as it gets. He's going to position himself on top just to make sure everybody knows where he is. Tom, this could get ugly for many reasons. We could get ugly from a buffalo-lion interaction point of view, so ugly for a buffalo or ugly for lions because of the two species, but also ugly from a pride point of view. You know, fighting, when prides fight, things can happen and animals can lose their lives, cubs can be hurt, so it's going to be a very, very, very difficult afternoon for everybody involved. I don't think we're going to see... Here comes one of the bulls again. Do you see why they get up? So here comes another one. They like to get higher, much like we use termite mounds for bushwalks to get higher and to make it to be safer. You find lions do the exact same thing, but this is absolutely amazing. I was pretty certain they were going to use this mound. Most of the time, lions will use mounds like this when they feel like there's some sort of a threat close by, they like to get up on them because they know it's a point of safety. The problem is that they sometimes can get surrounded on these mounds, and that's obviously a bit of an issue. There's no space for you up there, girl. That's cool. Isn't this very, very cool? And it seems like the weather kind of is matching the whole afternoon as well. Kind of cloudy, blustery, moody weather to match a very moody sighting. That's going to have a lot of intrigue as well. It almost feels like we're in part of a thriller novel at this stage. That buffalo is not moving just yet, but the rest of the buffalo are slowly kind of trying to get and distance themselves. But it's amazing to watch how the buffalo work. The bulls just kind of keeping the lions at bay. When they feel like they've been separated too far, then they start to push back to the herd, and the lions come there, and then it gives the time for the rest of the herd to just kind of keep moving down and away from where we are. Very cool though. Storybooks for sure. It's chaos in Djuma today. It's a lot going on. This particular part of the world at this time of the year is generally chaos. We normally have something happening at this time of the year. The dryness and the fact that a lot of the animals are coming into these areas because of the pans that we have, or the water points, means that you get a lot of interaction between predators, and obviously predator and their prey. And so generally this time of the year is a really good time of year to be out on a safari. And these kind of incidents tend to take place a lot more at this time of the year than they do in the summer months. It's just easier to find the animals as well. Sorry guys, look at that. That's a lot of lions, that's for sure. That is very cool. Right, so we're just going to sit tight. We're going to wait and see how things play out. I'm sure it's going to be an afternoon full of interest.
Well, hopefully for Tristan it is a very active afternoon with those lions. We are still just waiting patiently for this swallow-tailed bee-eater to come back into view that we can show you guys. No signs of any antelope. We took a little walk around this pan to take a look for any lion tracks. They haven't been in here. This is a very active watering hole for lions. Here we go, red-faced mousebird again. That's the African red-eyed bulbul in picture. Beautiful. Very distinctive red ring around the eye. And that dark cap and the yellow vent. Very easy to recognize this species of bird. You always see them in little groups. And around the lodge they can be fairly ferocious, coming straight down to you while you're sitting there and snacking on your plate with you. Especially through high tea. They become very, very brave around the lodges. And these wattle starlings are really enjoying this water for a bit of bathing.
From a very, very wind island, we finally managed to find some elephants, but they are hiding away, so I don't know for how long we're actually going to have a view of these elephants. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me as usual is Odie. And like I said, we're here on Pridelands, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Great Kruger National Park. Anyway, so we've been driving around around all afternoon trying to find animals, but it's so blustery out here today. I'm surprised we've managed to find these elephants, but you can see that they are tucked away up right on top of the ridge. There's lots and lots of sickle bush here, so I think it's providing them with a bit of shelter. But it's awesome though, because there's an elephant bull here who has a collar on him, and we know that Kumo, our elephant friend, who used to have a collar but he lost it, it's another elephant called Dex. He's the one on the right hand side. You can just sort of see his bum now. But then there's another enormous elephant that's tucked away, and I think that it might be an ellie called Gap. So I think this is what we're going to do for the rest of the afternoons. I'm going to sit here and wait for them to come out so we can see them properly, because it's just nice to sort of see some elephants that they are doing research on. And I think you would all love to see Gap, because he's got really big tusks. Not quite as big as Ezelwini, who is the famous tusker that roams around the Baluli sort of Olifants and of course Pridelands region, but he is very impressive nonetheless.
I have no idea what's going on with the other sighting, but I do know that the Nkuhumas have not got up yet. Every time that I anticipate they will, they don't. It's going to happen soon. I mean, it's 4:30 here in South Africa, and it's got really cold. Both BK and I are seriously regretting not bringing more clothes. We opted for summer attire, which was not a great idea, and as I'm sure you can hear, the winds are howling. It is perfect hunting conditions. The wind gives the predators a bit of an edge over the prey. There's other vehicles in the sighting, in case you can hear them. We're not alone here. And everyone's waiting with bated breath to see what happens. The Talamati Pride and the Nkuhuma Pride do know each other. They're not unfamiliar to one another. And if the Talamatis hunt a buffalo, the distress calls and those sounds will travel very quickly, and the Nkuhumas will immediately pick up on it. There's no way that one pride can hunt without the other one knowing. So what's going to happen, I really don't know. They keep looking in that direction. They're showing a lot of interest. They're just not moving. Gerarda, you're asking if a single male lion could take down a buffalo. I am not sure. They would probably try, but normally it is a cooperative effort because it's such a large animal. Buffaloes are huge, as you can see, and they are powerful in their own way. A single male lion could really risk a lot of injury. They would be tempted. Even when they're in their prime and they're at their strongest, a buffalo could easily shake them off. Normally, they position themselves on different parts of the buffalo. One will go for the rump, the rear end. One lion will try and tackle the nose, suffocate the animal from the nasal passages, which I know doesn't sound very pleasant, and another individual will go for the throat. And this is how they're able to so successfully take down buffalo. I really highly doubt that a male lion would attempt to take down a buffalo on his own. But they are incredibly powerful animals, lions. Apex predators of the Lowveld, controlling populations from the top down. And that's their ecological role. Although it's sad when we see the predators hunt, that's their purpose. They've got to control the populations. They've got to weed out the weak, weed out the old, and keep all the prey populations below them stable for the carrying capacity of that ecosystem. And it's exactly the same in the ocean. Lions are completely relatable to sharks. They both perform the same function. So of course BK and I are going to sit here and not go anywhere.
As are we not going to go anywhere for now because, like I say, the Telemates, they've been regrouped. Unfortunately, one was unceremoniously chased up this dead tree and surrounded by buffalo at one point. The buffalo then run away, and the whole pride has now come together and is just trying to kind of figure out what to do next. So for now, it's just a game of playing on the tree itself. But I suspect that the Telemates are going to give up on these buffalo. I don't know if we're going to see them carrying on. It looks like they have decided that this is not worth the effort. A lot of the females are just turning now and starting to head away rather than towards the buffalo. So I think they've realized this is not going to work for them. It's better that they start to move in a different direction. First, when we got to this point, all of a sudden there was this kind of chaos where everyone came together. So I thought maybe they'd managed to get a small one, but it doesn't seem that way. I think what happened is everybody got chased, and they got to a point where they didn't really know what else to do. But I can hear the buffalo still not too far away, but they've given up though. They've let the buffalo go too far now, and the whole direction of the lions has changed, and the attitude has changed completely. They've decided to kind of move a little bit, which is interesting. That's going to be that, I think, for the Telemates. I don't think they're going to try their luck with those buff anymore. Enough of being chased up trees and mounds and generally being pushed into all kinds of places they don't want to be. I'm going to just try and reposition a little bit for Niels here because he's got a car that's behind him. So we're going to just try and see if we can just get a slightly different view. Very thick block with a specific tree that is very difficult to negotiate around because it pulls out all your cables, called a black monkey orange. So there we go, we'll try and stop there. But they're unfortunately, sorry Niels, I've got a tree right in front of you, don't worry, they're mobile, so let's just follow them rather. But there we go, they're coming down. So they're moving the complete opposite direction now. What they are moving towards now, which is going to make life even more interesting, is that they are moving now towards Tlalamba's 2 kills that she's had over the course of 2 days. So you don't know who Tlalamba is. She's a leopard. She's got 2 different kills not too far from here, and they are heading in that direction now. So it's going to be no shortage of action, that's for sure. Let's catch up with them, Neil. So we're going to lose them. It's amazing how quickly they disappear in these thickets. Let's try and see if we can get to where they're going. We're right in the middle of this horrible monkey orange thicket, and it actually gets quite nice and clear once you get through a little patch here. All right, we're going to try and negotiate this because it's not easy at all. Hopefully we won't lose these lions as they go through these thickets.
Alrighty, as long as I don't point, they shouldn't fly away. We tested that the other day. Every time you point at a bird, it flies away. Nice little flock of scaly feathered weavers have come into the pan here now. Really beautiful little birds. Tiny conical beaks, pink in color, and it almost looks like they have a little beard under their chin. Hence the Afrikaans name, Bart Mannetjie, bearded man. Oh, in the background, female. David, stay there. Stay right there. In the background, behind that finch, look at that bird with a blue cheek, guys. Wow. That is a female violet-eared waxbill. And that's the female. Normally females are duller, which in this case it is. So just hold your horses. When you see the male, you are going to be mind melted. We're also waiting for a very special little bird to come into this area, which is called green-winged petilia. Also a bird we just don't see every day. And it's come in a few times, but it's fairly shy. There comes the wild-eared waxbill female again. Lovely. They're having a party here, and I think we're invited. Beautiful, look at that. Okay, Bulbul, we've seen enough of you. Really beautiful birds. There must be something that they're feeding on inside this grassy layer here by the water's edge. See, all the birds are like going down through these little branch sections. It might also just be enough cover for them to feel comfortable to get down to the water's edge for a drink. Wow, what an arrangement of birds, guys. Wow. I get a little excited, so just excuse me if I do get a little bit... My feelings exactly. This is awesome. There's no better word actually to use it, to describe it, sorry. I get a little bit run into myself when I do birding, and when I get excited I tend to trip over my words, so please, if I say something and you guys didn't hear, please don't hesitate to drop us a message at #WildEarth. And for all the young ambassadors, kids' questions at wildearth.tv. We're going to wait for this petilia because it'll be a really nice bird for everybody to see. And also, so I just need to calm myself down from a panic. Oh, stay there, David. Go down. Go in. There is a black-chested prinia. Oh, lovely. Very long tail. Very easy to obviously to see. Another little scaly-feathered finch. What previously, known as a scaly-feathered finch. The names have now been changed to scaly-feathered weaver from the beautiful little woven nest they make with inside thorny trees. David, can you go slightly up and to the right? There we go, right there, go in. Up a bit, to the left, to the left, to the left, there we go. Oh, if we can get a little sighting of this black-chested prinia, but it's moving very fast through this thick stuff. There we go. Wow, David. Nice pinkish legs, long tail. When it moves, it likes to keep the tail in an upright position. Fantastic.
Well, we are absolutely loving our lion pride that is marching past us. Unfortunately, though, I think that is the end of the hunting for buffalo. That's not to say that the end of the hunting session for the afternoon. I wonder if we're not going to get them actually starting to go after something else like zebras or, something a little bit more manageable than 500 buffalo. It would seem like that would be the case. I think that they targeting the wrong species this afternoon. There's just too many of them, and so I think they've decided it's going to be something easier out there. But you can see the whole pride is kind of making their way down towards us, which has been very cool. They decided to come this direction. Now, my favorite of the Talamati pride is that one that is walking there. It is the one that's got the missing tip to the tail, and you see that it's got a slightly kind of funny gait. Do you see that? It kind of, when it walks, its leg doesn't really work that well. And it's got such an interesting story, this particular little lion. It's an absolute survivor. It started life as a little cub, and everyone was very excited to see it, obviously. And then one day they found the pride's tracks with this massive drag mark, and it almost looked like the pride had an interaction with something, and potentially one of the cubs that first they thought had been maybe taken by a python, because they had these cub tracks and then they had this kind of big drag mark. And eventually, after tracking the pride, they came across the pride, and this little one was walking and dragging its entire entire back end, so tail and back legs, through the sand. It was not able to use its back legs or its tail at all. It was just kind of moving with this sort of damaged hip area. And luckily, thanks to the Pride and Mom constantly coming back and kind of moving it and carrying it, it has now gotten to the point where it's able to move. So it's such a heartwarming story, this little female, and I hope that she's going to survive. She's got obviously a lot of character with her little stumpy tail and her little bit of a limp, but she's doing absolutely fine now, keeps up with the Pride. She's kind of a fully fledged member. She doesn't have to worry at all. And then obviously the 3 boys are about to come down the hill now too, and they're going to stick together. These guys are going to be a little coalition to be a force to be reckoned with, because they're going to be very nice male lions, that's for sure. They're starting to get their manes. Got a long way to go though until all of them become successful male lions. Right, we're going to let them just file past us, because there's nothing better than a big Pride walking past the car like this.
Now we just had one bellow, and every single head in the Nkuhuma Pride popped up. They're showing interest, but they're not moving. They're still in lazy mode. It takes a lot of effort, and that's probably why. They're still resting, making sure they've got enough energy to do this. Now the buffalo herd, I believe, are moving south. We can hear them. So I just hope that they don't do the usual crossing out and the Nkuhumas follow. It'd be so wonderful. Oops, boop. Watch this. There should be a chain reaction, everyone. Should be. Once one lioness gets up, normally they all follow. Chain reaction, number 2's up. I love it when lions do this one by one by one, because nobody wants to be left behind. That was a cub flop. Okay, we're going to need to keep our eye on these lions if they move, and hopefully we can follow them through the block. Luckily, this block is quite easy, and it's easy to navigate for the car. You see, everyone's starting to get up, everyone's starting to wake up, scratch. Look at the size of the paws. Unbelievable. And the claws, you see that? They were pushed out, straight back in again. Yeah, everybody's getting up now, and they are heading in the direction of where we heard that bellow. Now, this could be a long process. I'm not saying they are immediately going to head to the buffalo, but they're definitely wakening up. This is what we've been waiting for. I see that everybody's following. Okay, so we're going to sit or follow the Nkuhumas, and hopefully they'll take us to the buffalo.
Can you get those in? All right, just in flight here, you guys should know these birds fairly well. A pair of South African shell ducks, hence the name. They are endemic. But how cool is it to see them fly? Female on the right with a white head. You could just see the white head, and then the male on the left. Beautiful. There is flock after flock after flock of these wattled starlings coming into the water. Can hear acacia-pied barbets busy calling behind us, giving a nice hoot, 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 hoot sound. Very busy. I was gonna take a drink out of this pan, but it's not as clean as the other pan, so I took a skip. So main bird species here is definitely the wattled starling, and then our yellow canaries. Let's go to the Namakwa dove there, Dill. Beautiful. Can we go a little bit more to the left there, David? There we go. Look. Oh, no, I didn't point. I promise you guys. That was a Namakwa a Namakwa dove that just took off there. Still very excited. I'm trying to calm myself down here. But when it comes to birding, there's no calm. We birding. A lot of chattering going along. So after they've completed this section or this activity, they'll fly up into the tree and they'll do a bit of preening. So running their beaks through their feathers, and they have a special gland. They'll actually stimulate the gland to secrete a bit of oil, and that oil is then rubbed and pushed through the feathers, and that just keeps and allows the bird to keep the feathers into a very, very high degree in terms of maintenance. Very, very clean. You've got to ensure that this set that you have is looked after. Busybodies. And you can see the behavior. Head first, and then they run. They head through the water over the back, and then they ruffle the feathers. Wow. How is that for a response? Because this area now is where a falcon would come in and swoop through here and grab one of those birds. So being in a bigger group, they're at a better chance to stay safe. Oh, there comes another flock. Oh, there's another Namakwa dove, Dave. Just going to show you the Namakwa dove that took off from us earlier. There we go. The one in the middle of the screen, that is a female. It has a white chest and a greyish head, a little bit of white around the eye. A male will have a black facial mark and then a black bib being presented. There one called. Did you guys hear that? Very beautiful call, and really well adapted to these arid regions.
Afternoon, and welcome to a very windy afternoon at and beyond Ngala, where we've seen quite a few animals, but most of them have bolted off when we approached. But these zebras and wildebeest have been kind enough to stick around. Quite a beautiful scene. We're in the southern parts of the reserve, nice and open. My name is Marna, and with me behind the camera is Gert. And yeah, as you can see, like I said, nice and open. So you'll see these zebras and giraffes are feeding on the grass. Both of them feeding on the grass. Zebras generally go for the higher parts of the grass, so the longer grass, and the wildebeest will feed a little bit lower down. fairly common to see the two species feeding together. Safety in numbers, and especially on a day like today where it is quite windy, as I mentioned, they need to be very alert. None of them seem to be alert here. They're quite sheltered by this quarry thicket around them, even though it's still open on this side. But normally when the wind blows, you'll see that most of the herbivores will be very, very alert. They need to be on the lookout for predators, seeing as the predators will use this wind to their advantage. The movement of the grass, the movement of the leaves in the trees, that it makes a lot of noise, so it's hard for them to pinpoint what's around them or if predators are around them approaching them. So these are plains zebras. Used to be Burchell zebra. And in southern Africa, at least, one of the ways, or one of the distinguishing features is that shadow stripe. If you look at that one on the left, and you look at the rump, you'll notice that there's that almost grey stripe between the black stripes that we call the shadow stripe. And the other zebra we find in South Africa does not have that, which is the mountain zebra, the Cape Mountain zebra, and they also have a white belly. Whereas with these ones, you can see, if you look at the one on the left there, the stripes extend all the way around the belly to the bottom there. That's quite a nice shot.
Now, I know it doesn't look like we have much right now. You're going to have to just enjoy this abstract view of Dex, a young elephant bull. He's just feeding away now. But Gap, the bigger bull, is on his way. He's actually about to pop out. It's just so dense in here. And you can see how all the trees are moving, and I'm sure you can hear the wind howling. So you can understand why they don't want to be out in the open. You can see the other elephant just to the right. There we go. Hello, big boy. Oh, he's a lovely elephant. I wonder if there's another one in here. Oh, but we've been saying that they don't look happy with one another. And they have been tussling a fair amount. There we go. We're just going to sit where we are right now, and if they do come towards us, I will move away, because when elephant bulls are having a bit of a box, they forget that there is anything else around them. But it is quite awesome to just see these boys do their thing. I don't think I've actually seen these two elephants before. I've just heard about them. Maybe that's not Gap. I feel like there's another big elephant bull in here. Because we saw one earlier, and he had enormous tusks, like really, really big tusks. So maybe there's a third collared elephant bull. Elephants Alive have collared an incredible amount of elephants in this area, all for research. Am I going crazy? Does that one on the left even have a collar? Sorry, everybody. I'm just having this moment of... No. Okay, so I am going a bit insane. I do apologize. So the elephant that we're looking at... Please forget... Yeah, I did. I called OD crazy. I said that he was mad earlier. Please forget everything that I just said. The elephant on the right is Dex, and Gap we haven't seen yet. Gap is still hiding away, but he's much bigger. But anyway, so these two younger bulls are having a bit of a tussle. I imagine another collar just now. But I kid you not when I say that we have driven around about 10 times on this little loop, hoping that they would pop out and looking for little gaps here and there. So finally, we have managed to find something. And I'm hoping that they'll all move out of this thicket and head down towards Ndlovu Dam, where we'll get a much clearer view of them.
We have wrestling. Oh, we're playing a game of slaps. The lionesses are stretching. I love it when the cubs wrestle. It's one of my favorite things. Practicing their power as little ones. One jumped into a tree, a small apple leaf, and then immediately fell back out again. Oops, apologies. It's my Game Drive video. You see, it was a chain reaction. You can almost predict when the lines are going to start to move. It's never straight away. It's never immediate. Yeah, the lionesses are moving. There we go. This is what we've been waiting for. They are going in the direction of the buffalo. But it's a big herd, remember. They're going to have to really play this one safe. And of course, once all the lionesses start to move, the cubs will follow. Jackie, that's a tricky one. Normally, a cub can be called a sub-adult, so it's not sexually mature, so it's not an adult. Normally, around the age of 2 to 3, you would class a lion as a sub-adult, but it really does depend on their own individual progress. So sometimes between the age of 1 and 2, you may call a cub a sub-adult, but never below the age of 1. Now, normally a sub-adult is sort of beginning to resemble an adult, if that makes sense. So it's no longer got the cub features, it's starting to resemble the adults and it's taken shape. So they say at roughly about 2 years old, a female is about 3/4 the size of their mother. 3/4 the size of their mother, and therefore you would start to call a female of that size a sub-adult. And of course, for the males, they can be a little bit bigger than that because they naturally get bigger, and they will start to have a little mohawk or a hairy chin, if you like, and therefore you can start to call them sub-adults. So normally between 2 to 3 sub-adults, and at least above 3 years old, you can probably say that they are fully adults. But it really does depend, Jackie. All of these little ones are definitely still cubs, and I don't want to turn the engine on because the last thing you ever want to do is split a pride. So I think we're going to have to make sure we stay behind the pride and keep our eyes on the females. And the tricky part for us is we're really losing light. The ambient light is getting lower and lower. This is a little one, you see that? It's quite badly scarred on his rear end, which is a little bit sad. But for some reason, he's very fascinated in this tree. We're going to attempt to climb it again.
So we haven't moved from the elephants, as you can obviously see. Now, I'm playing games with myself this afternoon. I'm now looking at pictures that I've been sent of some of the elephant bulls with collars that we typically see in this area. Now, I was only sent pictures of Kumo, Dex, Gap, and I think that was it. Just those 3. Obviously, Ezelwini doesn't have a collar. Now, I think this is Dex, but I don't know. But I know there's a few of you who do follow Elephants Alive. Maybe you've got the ID kit. You can check for me. I'm actually going to take a very quick photo, or maybe you can also take some screenshots so that I can send them along. I'm actually going to send this to a friend of mine who works there right now and ask him who this is. But we'll wait for Gap is definitely here. Gap's 100% here. He's just hiding away for the moment. But I'm not sure about this bull. But anyways, but he is beautiful nonetheless. And now that he is finished playing with his other friend who's marched off in the opposite direction, he's just nibbling on some twigs. But he's a lovely fella though. He's quite wary though. I don't know if you can see he's relaxed with us. But he's just sort of keeping an eye on us, and I think that obviously he's eating and in this direction. But the wind is really, really howling, and that's going to play some tricks with him today too. His hearing is not going to be as good. His sense of smells, well, it's going to be out of control. The sense is swirling in all sorts of directions, and the light is fading very quickly today, so he's not going to really be able to rely on that so much. So he's just keeping a close eye on us. But I'm happy that he is eating. That's always a good sign, is when they're continuously feeding. And if he does decide that he wants to walk down this pathway, although there are quite a few going off, we can just move out of his way. Now, Chad, so the elephants that we're looking at right now are bulls. So typically to have a matriarchal status is with the females, and that's given to you by either lineage or if, say, the matriarch of a herd, the oldest, normally it's the oldest, the most experienced female dies, it'll normally be the next female who's sort of oldest and has most experience will typically take over the herd. With the bulls, they're sort of fighting for breeding rights, if you will. So especially elephant bulls, are quite nomadic. They move around a fair amount. When they go into something called must, so it's like a heightened state of emotion, so their veins are coursing with testosterone. This is really the drive that pushes them to seek out females that are in estrus. See, he's not worried about us. He's actually going off. He's not happy with that other bull. He's going to chase him again, I think, at some point. And essentially they will fight with one another. Okay, I'm just going to go forward. So they will often box with one another, especially when they're in must, and especially if two bulls that want to mate with the same female in the same herd, then there's going to be big problems. But they don't mark territories or anything like that. Like I said, they're fairly mobile, and they move into lots of different areas. This time of the year, it's kind of dry. They're hanging around permanent water sources. They're not doing too much moving around. So the older the bull gets, the less they move about. But these youngsters, like these feathers, they'll be slightly more nomadic, and you'll find that they move much further distances more frequently. Now, I don't know where this other bull has gone. Where are you? He's somewhere in here. He's hiding. I suppose he doesn't want to be seen, but you can see how thick it is. I'm just going to stop because we had him in there. I actually hit the brakes so hard I thought Owen was going to fall over and into the front seat with me, because I thought for a split second, because I just saw white tusks, that it was the big tusker Ezulwini, but it was not him after closer inspection. But now he's completely disappeared. I can't believe it. But that's all sickle bush and red bush willow, and there's marula trees and all sorts of things in there. So he's probably just munching on some sticks. But that's a much smaller bull. As you can see, he's tiny. He's racing off now, chasing after the others. But now we don't really have a view. But if they carry on moving at the rate at which they should hit Ndlovu Dam in no time.
Oh, I was just about to say, hopefully it doesn't fly away. Just to the right, Dave, there's another one by that yellow canary, just on the right-hand side. No, sorry, a bit more to the right. Keep on going. There we go. Oh, okay, that's male and female, and the other one's flown off. Anyway, so wave after wave, we've had a period now of about 10 minutes. It's gotten a little bit quieter. And then suddenly it's just this roar of eruption with different bird species coming into the pan. Oh, on the left, fantastic. Nice rufous wing, look at that. That is a Cape bunting, ladies and gents. We tried to get that on view a couple of minutes ago. That nice rufous wing being displayed, and then that black and white head is unmistakable to be a Cape bunting. And the reliable blacksmith lapwing still here. They haven't moved. They'll more than likely be residents at this pan. Yum, yum. So you can see this bird's foot structure, how it's designed to enable it to move very quickly through soft sediment. the bird will even display quite a unique behavior. It is displayed by other small wading species referred to as foot trembling. So using its foot and actually disturbing the sediment and allowing small invertebrates to be brought up, and that's when the bird will strike. Don't get close to the nest. There we go. Namakwa dove on the left, female. No black facial mask or black bib. Stuck in bed. Do I have a favorite bird? Yes, I actually do. My favorite bird would have to be an alpine swift. Just its sheer beauty, its size, and its flight has to be one of the most entertaining things I've ever witnessed when it comes to birding. Alpine swift is my favorite bird. But anything with feathers, I truly love. Having a very busy afternoon here, and sounds like in other places you guys are also having quite a jam-packed afternoon.
Welcome back everybody to And Beyond Phinda, where in picture we've managed to find a rather large elephant bull who was moments ago tucked away in the middle of that gardenia, that thicket that is just off to the side of now. Oh, listen to that. Don't know if you could hear that, but he just broke quite a large branch, and he himself is quite a large elephant bull. You can see that very impressive set of ivory that he's got there, those tusks of his, as he pulls those branches down to then feed on. And that seems completely unnecessary. He's got a little bit of, or remnants of the tree that he's now broken on his head. But hopefully he makes the most of that little bit that he's broken off now and feeds on that. But it's probably just a little bit easier for him now. He can put his head over it and just tuck it straight in his mouth. And amazing to see how he grabs the ends of those branches, strips them, and manipulates those branches with his trunk, and then puts that in his mouth. And then even so, he'll go in his mouth, maybe if he's eaten a thorn or something like that he has to adjust in his mouth, will go and manipulate it with that trunk. They are actually very precise with their trunk and what they do with it. It's amazing to watch as he now feeds. And you might see the inside of his trunk probably look like it's dyed green from all the stripping that he's been doing as he lifts it there like that. A hint of green dye that you see there. Can see those back legs of his are wet, which is a sign or an indication to us that he's in must. So I mean, if he does carry on along his way, we'll definitely give him a space to move on. Full of testosterone, this big elephant bull. See how he's resting his trunk on his tusks now as well. A little bit of dribble coming out of that penis sheath of his now as well. And that stench or the smell of that substance coming out of there is quite a strong musty smell that you'd smell. You'd need one of those scratch and smell goodies now from your TV to smell that. He might just disappear out of picture, but he's full of testosterone and in must that I know you spoke of earlier. But impressive to see. We might wait for him to come out the other side now as he disappears there where he is. You can see there's another game viewer just giving him a little bit of space to come out the other side on the road, which we might do. But this is a similar picture to what we were greeted with when we arrived here. It was basically Guess the Animal. It was more like a fauna and flora segment that we were doing earlier on. And a lot of the time people will say, elephants are quite aggressive when they're in must, which they can be towards each other. But if you give them their space like we are now, they're actually quite happy to go about their business. Like he, I think, is just thoroughly enjoying this cooler weather, moving from spot to spot and just feeding off bits and pieces as he goes along. slowly starting to emerge out the other side now. Let's see. They often walk along the road as a path of least resistance. They might just greet us out in the middle of the road now.
They're all walking through the block. They're heading straight to the Inyari, which means buffalo. Oh wait, I can see them, BK. They're right there. My goodness, they are really not far away from the buffalo. I don't know if we're going to be able to see them, but let's try. 11 o'clock? Yes. There you have it. Not the best visuals in the world, but that is buffalo, everyone. That's how close we are. They're looping around. I think we're going to have to be really careful that we don't lose the lions. The lions are the buffalo are just a little further east than where we are right now. Cantrell, I really don't know at the minute. It is howling. My hair is getting swept in all directions. It does feel like it's coming from the east. If we just take a quick look up at the sky, BK will give you a view of what we're facing. But it's definitely coming from the east, possibly northeast. But we were warned about the winds today. And I got a little lecture from Tristan about wearing cozy clothes. Yogesh, it depends on the wind and where they've travelled. From what I know this morning, the Talamatis and the Nkuhumas have not crossed paths. From where we can guess they've travelled, the Talamatis came down from the north and they actually crossed through quarantine, for any of you that know the reserve, and they headed south on Zoe's. Now the Nkuhumas came up from the south. So from what we're aware, they're following the buffalo. They're both on the property, or they were. The Talamatis have now left, and if they haven't crossed paths, they might not. If there was no vocalizations and they didn't hear one another, the scent might not travel. If the wind was going in the right direction, then they could, of course, pick up on each other's scents. But other than that, it really depends on a lot of factors. I don't think they actually crossed the same paths. But all in all, they're very aware of one another's presence in the area. But whether they were aware of their presence in close proximity to each other today, I'm not sure. They're highly olfactory predators. If they got just a faint whiff of another pride scent, I think they would have reacted. And no one has vocalized today, from the Nkuhumas at least. I think it's important that we just move a little bit. Oh, look at that intense stare. Well done, BK. Lions are remarkably camouflaged through the thicket. When you see them lying on the green grass, they stand out. Their tawny coats stand out. But in the winter vegetation, the winter landscape, they're remarkably camouflaged. Really not far away. They're going to have to get this right, and there's a lot of factors for them to take into consideration, especially the wind. If we go back to the wind, it's blowing from the buffalo. I'm just trying to give you some context to where we are, to the Nkuhumas, not the other way. So it's definitely in the sort of, well, the Nkuhumas have the advantage here with regards to the wind direction. We're just going to reposition a little bit to keep up with our girls.
All right. There was a very beautiful bird on the left here. I thought about it flying away, and that's exactly what happened. Can you believe it? I think it's something that we need to prove. So every time I think about it, if I point at the screen, it flies. we're going to continue from the pan over here and just end up a little bit further south and see if we can't scratch up some other little animals coming out now from hiding. I don't know. It's pretty cool.
Welcome back, everybody, to And Beyond Phinda, where again this big elephant bull's just found a nice patch. You can see he's busy chewing on a branch there, trying to get at that cambium layer, get all the nutrients out of it. He's just off the road, which we are a little bit further away from. And if he does decide to walk towards us, it's most likely going to be on the road, in which case I'll probably have to reverse to give him a space. But I think, it's just in such a nice patch that's sheltered from the wind and so content with what he's feeding on at the moment. He's not going anywhere. His trunk resting on the ground now, giving it a bit of a break. And you can actually, there he goes manipulating that branch in his mouth, like we spoke of. Rosalind, you're asking how much an elephant's ear weighs. I must be honest, I have no idea. I can't imagine it to be that heavy. Although, if you look at that intricate network of veins on the other side of that ear, if he maybe flaps his ears, you'll see quite an intricate network of veins behind his ear. It carries quite a bit of blood. He pumps about 12 litres of blood every minute through there. So, sure, hard to say. The top side of those ears look rather hefty, and it must take quite a bit of muscle to move such big appendages. On a really hot day, you'll see them flapping them quite a bit. So, Rosalind, if I gave you a figure, I think I'd be lying. I'd maybe say around, sure, I wouldn't know, maybe 15 odd kilos, thereabouts.
As you can see, we've got the princess with her very, very full, very round tummy. Hello, girl. Nice to see you. I'm so glad that we get to spend time with her. The good news is, for those of you that are maybe wondering whether the Telematis decided to turn more north, they didn't. They went south and away from where she is, which is good news. Oh, you're going to just go to the toilet? Excuse you. I'm sorry, are we interrupting? I always feel awkward when we're sitting here and a leopard goes to the loo, because they're so, especially her, she's so ladylike and she's so kind of dainty when she moves around that I feel as though I'm interrupting something when she's going to the toilet, and she's really defecating for a long, long time. What's cool about it, though, is that there's a strong breeze, and so that heavy smell of popcorn is blowing straight at us at the moment. I know it's a weird thing to say that it's cool to smell her urine, but the way her urine smells is, like I said, just like popcorn, so it's always good when you smell it. She's just going to go behind us and go back to her carcass. I'm pretty sure she's going to go up her tree now. Bianca, exactly. She is our little princess. She's such a cool little leopard. I have all the time in the world for her. She's going to go up this little mound here. I'm going to just try and reposition us, because where she is at the moment is not easy for us to see, and it's obviously a difficult little kind of angle that we're at where we are now. So I'm going to just go back. She looks like she's going to sit on top of this mound now. She's slowly kind of doing mound work. So she was on top of a different mound, and now she's going on top of this mound, and so slowly but surely she's finding her way to where she wants to be. But this mound that she's gone on now is a mound that reminds me so much of Hosana, because the amount of times that I saw him on this particular mound is unbelievable. He was here all the time at one point, and Tingana too, Tandi, Karula, they've all used this mound at some point in their life. All right, let's go forward a little bit Just give the other vehicle that's in the sighting a bit of space behind us. There we go. That's it. She's now just sitting perfectly on top of her little, I say a mound, but it's kind of the edge of a cutoff on the sort of outflow of Gowrie Dam. But it's, like I said, a place where most of the leopards like to sit. From here, they can kind of see their kill, as well as see if anything's coming. It's a little bit more elevated than being down in the drainage, and so they typically like being up there. And every time there is a kill in this jackalberry close to the dam wall here, you find the leopards often use this spot or across this little outflow onto the next little sort of high point to the north of here. She is looking beautiful, and well, she should be. I suppose she's been eating non-stop for 3 days now. There's still some of the Nyala left to the south of us, so she does still have 2 kills that she can feed off. They're both at that point, well, the Nyala particularly is at the point where there's really very little left. It's just a few legs and a little bit of skin, so she might not go back there. But this one's still got quite a lot, so I suspect that she'll still be here tonight and into tomorrow morning, which will be very cool. Those little shoulders are starting to get big, aren't they? So Liam, you're asking about average height of a fully grown leopard. Are we talking male or female? Because males will stand taller than females by quite a long way. A female will probably be between sort of 60 and 70 centimeters at the shoulder, maybe a little bit more than that, 80 centimeters. And we're talking about leopards here where we are, because Cape leopards, so the ones in the mountains, are much, much smaller than what these are. So you're talking probably 70 to 80 centimeters for the females, and the males will probably be closer to about 100 centimeters at the shoulder, even maybe a little bit higher than that. So the males are a lot taller, and it's really difficult to explain the size difference of males and females until you see them together. It becomes immediately noticeable when a female stands next to a male, particularly when it's a big male. So, a male like Tingana or even Mulawati, if she's next to them, you'll see how much of a difference there is between the two. All right, well, I'm pretty sure our little princess will go up the tree at some point. She's not going to stay down for too much longer. It's cool enough now, so we'll just be patient and wait for her to do so.
All right. It's just so cute. We have to take a look at the squirrel. They're very abundant and fairly commonly overlooked, but they are super entertaining to watch. Busy nibbling away in typical rodent fashion, as you guys can see there in picture. And anything from, your general roots and bulbs, seeds. I've seen them feeding on flowers. And obviously their very dexterous little front paws enable them to hold the seed and move the seed around as they gnaw on it with those elongated incisors. Long whiskers and a very large eye. Obviously being on the ground like this, you're at high risk. So you want very good vision to pick up on any movement of a threat in the area. And what a fluffy tail it's got. You'll see that the hind leg is quite long, so making quite a distinctive track. Mrs. Lapwing, these guys are hysterical. They're very hysterical. And I find myself getting lost at watching these little guys. They're highly social. They actually form separate male and female groups, and there's a distinct hierarchy within these groups. It's quite amazing. And then just like our meerkat friends, they also utilize underground burrows or warrens to evade these low temperatures that we experience here at Tswalu. That fluffy tail that you're seeing at the end there, a very important tool when they're trying to evade a predator, they'll actually use their tail to distract the predator. So the tail's fur, the tail can be manipulated in terms of what you're seeing, the structure of the tail. So the animal can make its tail fluffy, or it can make it flat. And when it's busy running away from something, it'll actually move the tail in the opposite direction and actually set the visual aspect of a predator off. We've also found them using their tails to create a bit of shade. We've actually done a bit of studying on them to see if the fluffy tail actually has an influence on the body temperature of the animal. Because mainly through the hotter periods of the day, you'll find the animal busy feeding out in the open just like this, and they'll have their tail curled right over their back, creating like this natural little umbrella. It's quite hysterical. But really, we've come to the conclusion it actually does not have an effect on their body temperature. So there might be another hidden agenda to why they do this, creating a bit of shade, maybe eliminating glare, you name it. It's only from sitting and observing that one will figure out these finer details. But very comical to watch. They're typically diurnal, so coming out early morning and then going about their business throughout the day.
The wind is still howling, and the Ingohumas have decided to sit on top of the Shadulu, no, not the leopard, a termite mound. We've made no further progress. They know exactly where the buffalo are, but the thing is we're very close to Gowrie Main, which is our southern boundary. We can't cross it. And I just wonder if they're going to... Oh, why is everybody very alert all of a sudden? So yes, if they go south, we're not going to be able to follow them for very long. It would just be so wonderful to see them make a buffalo kill on Djuma. Look at this little cub getting stuck in the tree.
Yours coming. Oh, yours.
Broomley, you are 9 years old and you're asking how much a young lion weighs. Well, I'm guessing you mean at birth. Of course, we've got a huge range of different age groups in front of us right now, so that would be difficult to answer. But at birth, they only weigh between about 1 to 2 kilograms when they're very first born. And they're born altricial, and what that word means is that they're underdeveloped, and therefore their eyes don't actually open until anywhere between 3 to 11 days. So they're completely blind when they're first born, they're weak, they've not got a lot of hair on their bodies, and that's because as a predator, the sort of pregnancy period is very, very short. It's only 3.5 months if you compare that to a human, and this is because if a female lion was pregnant for too long, she wouldn't be able to hunt, she wouldn't be able to survive. So it's a very quick pregnancy, which means when the cubs are born, they're born very underdeveloped, and we call this altricial. And they only weigh between 1 to 2 kilograms. If you think of maybe the weights I do at the gym are a lot heavier than 1 to 2 kilograms. It's really not that heavy. And of course, as soon as they start drinking mum's milk, they put on weight quite rapidly. And that's because they have to. They must, the sort of role as a mother in a lion pride is to get your cubs as big and as strong as quickly as possible. Feed them as much as you can of your nutritious milk. It's full of protein, calcium, fatty acids. Make sure they grow, and at around 6 weeks they become very, very mobile. They start to move, they start to appear. You will get to see lion cubs, and from then on they can... Oh, what are we eating? A stick, delicious. And from about 6 weeks, you can even see them nibbling a little bit on meat. It's important for a lioness to get the cubs tasting meat so that they can develop immunity, they can develop within their sort of internal digestive system, the enzymes will form, the antibodies will form, and they're getting ready to grow into a fantastic lioness or lion. The Nkahumas know where the buffalo are, and it's a case of they're just not ready to hunt yet. They mustn't be that hungry, and it's just not time. So they're slowly going to move and stay behind them, making sure that the buffalo don't pick up on them. And I am not sure it's going to happen in the duration of this drive, but you never know. We're going to sit tight and wait.
Welcome back to Anbia on Phinda, everybody, where we're still sitting with this gentle giant this afternoon. This big elephant bull has found a little buffet of food that he's busy feeding on. Now you can just see those ears sticking out, which he was flapping a little bit earlier. And I know, rather than if you're still there watching, asking how much their ears weigh, 15 kilograms that I said is maybe the weight of a baby elephant's ear. They can weigh up to about 45 kilograms or 100 pounds, which is quite phenomenal. And you can imagine the muscle in that head that, you know, on a really hot day that they'd used to flap those. But coming into picture now from the right-hand side is another quite a bit smaller elephant bull that's hanging around this larger, obviously more experienced bull. We're going to jump across to a leopard quickly.
You won't believe it, but she's made another kill. She's such a little glutton. She's just grabbed the scrub hare out of nowhere. She wasn't even stalking it. I think the scrub hare was just hiding there, and she kind of managed to spot it as it was emerging for the evening's activities. And there we go. She's got herself another one. So if 2 wasn't enough, she now has 3. So she has starter, dinner, and dessert, which is ridiculous. Kalamba, you're going to be a little pie by the end of this. That's crazy. Of course, it's not a huge meal, obviously, but on top of all that she's already eaten, this is just being spoiled, really. It just goes to show you how this is a thing that a lot of people often don't realize with leopard, particularly, is that they are very opportunistic and they will take any chance they can get, whether that be going after something when they've got kills, whether it's hunting small things, big things, it doesn't really matter. You clever girl, well done. But get your tree quickly, because the noise that just made, hyenas will be with you shortly. She's so clever. Well done, my girl. You are an absolute treat. Niels will go up onto the top because I'm pretty sure she's going to go to a tree in order to try and get herself close in case hyenas arrive. So we're going to just go up as well. You are so clever. Look at you. It's amazing to see how far she's come and how well she's developed in the last few months. She's just such a little treat. So you see how cautious she was coming over the bank? So she knew full well that coming over the bank, she needs to be aware of the fact that hyenas could be around. Now, that little scrub hare didn't squeal for long. It made just a short little burst. And then up it... Well, then, unfortunately, it was dead. So she's probably just making sure there's no hyenas below the tree. As soon as that's the case, then she'll go towards the tree itself and probably take it up. Ivy, you say her mom taught her well, 100%, particularly when it comes to scrub hares. Just remember that Thandi was a scrub hare hunter of note. It's something that she went after a lot. And so I'm pretty sure that this is something that she would have seen her mom do before. Amazing. What you doing, girl? You see how aware she is also with this wind. She's being very, very aware. And there she goes in front. She's still got grass attached to the scrub hair from where she grabbed it. I don't know if you can see it sticking out on the right-hand side there. But she's going to go up the tree, so we're just going to be patient and give her the space to go up. We don't need to go any closer. We've got a really nice view from where we are. And so I'm pretty sure she's just going to pop straight up. Watch this. Awesome. It never gets old. They are just the most magnificent creatures. Well done, girl. You clever thing. She's starting to learn from Hosana. This was his favorite tree to hoist kills. He used to put them up here often at one point, and so, you know, now it's starting to look a little bit macabre though, because there's carcasses hanging everywhere. You can see the carcass behind there. That's the one she stole from the hyenas. So she's, like I say, now got 3 different carcasses that are hanging. All right, let's reposition slightly because she's gone up into an area where we can't see her. We can only just see the jackalberry kind of tree. So I think if we come forward a little bit, I'll try to give a bit of space to the vehicle behind us who's also in the sighting so that they can also see. So if we go a little bit further than we need to, then they'll also have a little bit of space as well. Oh, that's cool. So you'll find now what she's going to do. She's going to pluck it. But the problem is, what I haven't actually considered where I am right now is that when she starts to pluck this scrub hair, the wind is blowing directly at us, which means we're going to get covered in all kinds of scrub hair fur, which is not really that pleasant, to be honest. If she decides to eat it, she might just fall asleep on it because she's got such a full tummy. But if she does pluck, we are in firing range. It's happened to me before with Tandi, her mother. When her mother was eating a duiker once, and this wind came up, and all of a sudden I had a face full of dead duiker fur that came off the tree. And so in windy conditions like this, you've got to be a bit careful about what comes your way. I'm very surprised, though, that not a single hyena has arrived, because there are 2 hyenas just further down from where we are. I saw them earlier when we were looking for her right at the beginning of this afternoon safari. And I'm surprised neither one of them has responded, but it could be because the wind is blowing from them to her, and because it's blowing quite hard, maybe they didn't hear that short little scream of this little scrub hair as it unfortunately met its end. And that's the sort of sad part about these things. Amazing that she's got a meal, but sad obviously because at the end of the day it's a life that's been lost. You know, an animal that was trying just to survive out here. But these conditions are perfect hunting conditions, so it does happen. Well, Andreas is out here in the wilds, and this is a thing that kind of applies to all animals, is that all animals need to have a niche. If you have every animal that operates in the exact same way, it will become too much competition for that specific food source. So if you had every animal was a pride like lions and they were the same size, you'd find it would be very difficult, and they'd have to all operate within the same area. And so what's the thing with leopards is that they have evolved and have adapted to become these animals that are able to spend a lot of time in thicker, denser areas than what cheetah or lions would be. They've got much more powerful front ends comparatively, and so they've adapted to a life in dense areas and trees. Their coat pattern also dictates that will be the case for them. They have a spotted coat which really blends in dappled light, so areas of denser vegetation. And so they've just created their own niche by being on their own. And because of the way that they hunt, they're these supreme ambush predators that rely on camouflage more than anything else. If they try and if they were to try and be in packs and there would be lots of them together, it might not work nearly as well. They rely heavily on just being kind of hidden and just staying in one little spot and waiting for animals to come towards them. And what you saw now is exactly the case. That's a very cool shot in some ways. I mean, obviously it's sad in some respects, but you can see the size difference between a scrub hare paw and a leopard's paw. So that's the hind legs of the scrub hare that are hanging down, and her front leg. But it almost looks like the scrub hare is doing what she's doing. It's kind of a mirror image in some respects of her back legs at this stage. And as I said, she's going to fall asleep now on her kill. That's what's going to happen. In typical Tlalamba fashion, her mom has done this to me before as well, where she's caught something and then just fallen asleep on it. It's a common thing to happen, particularly when they're full. If she was hungry, she would have wolfed that down. But given that she's got such a full tummy, there's no need for her to have to worry at this stage. Oh, I could spend all my time with these cats, and her as well. I mean, she's just spectacular, and watching her grow from this little cub to where she is now has been an absolute treat. Good. Well, I don't know what else is going to happen with her. You never know when you're around Tlalamba, so we'll just be patient and see what happens for the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, Tlalamba. I think Tristan needs to tell her that she should be a little bit more sustainable. She has a lot of kills up a lot of trees in that area. Maybe just stocking up, that's her pantry. Now, we've been watching Ridge-Nosed boys wrestle like there's no tomorrow. They've been very vocal. And the lionesses are just ignoring them. But they have to be careful they don't make too much noise. You don't want to alert the buffalo. Although, due to the wind, the sound may not travel in that direction. And that's one of the reasons the males get ousted quickly. They become far too big and far too boisterous. Males and lions must disperse anyway and form their own coalition, but that's one of the reasons the lionesses start to push them out. They're too boisterous, they're too big, and they don't mean it. They don't necessarily mean it with any harm. Excuse our aerial, but they just want to play. And they're far too aggressive in that approach, which is a little bit risky to potentially younger cubs. So they are starting to move. Half are moving, half are not. We've still got one of the lions sitting on the top of the mound scratching. Popping that tongue out every so often, which is far too sweet. My dog does the exact same thing. It's highly entertaining. So I have a funny feeling tomorrow we're going to hear the news that the Nkuhumas are on a buffalo kill on Little Gowrie. But it's been amazing to see them navigate, stay so close to the herd, know when is the right time to follow, know when's not the right time to follow, like earlier on this morning. It's been really fantastic watching them listen, watching them smell. Oh, there's lots of questions about age today. This must be the theme. You're asking at what age do the cubs start to learn to hunt, Trevor? Now, as I mentioned earlier, they're born altricial, and it's normally around the 6 weeks mark that they start to become really mobile and they start to follow the pride a lot more. Oh, bless you. Oh. There you go. That's what they've been doing for the past little while. And anywhere between sort of 4 to 8 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks, depending on which litter the cubs are from, mothers can actually lead them to to kills nearby. They're only really weaned from milk completely at anywhere between 7 to 10 months. And again, it depends on pride dynamics because they all allosuckle. So anywhere around the 6 to 8 week mark, they're led to kills and they can start to eat meat. They can start to taste meat, but just like the hyena cubs that we've been witnessing, it's little small bites, and the sort of ratio from milk to meat will slowly flip over as the cub gets a little bit older. But they do stay in milk for anywhere between 7 to 10 months, which is quite a long time for an animal. Not as long as hyenas, but it's still long. But it depends. If you've got much bigger boys, like ridge-nosed boys, then the sort of mother that has the youngest cubs will try to keep them apart for longer. And it exactly bases on that point, that the boys are just a little bit too boisterous, so the mother may not introduce them until a little bit later. So hopefully our playful cats are really going to start to follow these buffalo soon.
Well, hopefully for you, Lauren, you've been very patient this afternoon. Obviously, our cat, both cats, should I say, between the Telematis and Tlalamba, we've had a crazy, ridiculous afternoon. From lions hunting buffalo to a leopard making a kill in front of us. It's really been as good as one could ever ask for. We've been spoiled this afternoon, that's for sure. So I'm hoping that those cats will get up as well. As you can see, she's just starting to think about feeding now. So for a while, she was sitting and almost falling asleep. And then the wind, I think the wind's just disturbing her so much that she's decided the better part of doing this would just be to probably have a little bit of a feed, or maybe just reposition it so that it doesn't fall down once she takes her paws off it. Because at one point, she was kind of pinning it with her paw. Now that she's put it up on the branch, you can see it's kind of, again, almost mimicking her pose. It's not alive, Tlalamba. You don't have to grab it, but I think the wind is blowing it, then especially the ears, and so she thinks maybe it's still moving because she keeps like biting at it. But that, I'm afraid, is very much dead. The power of her jaws would have broken this or severed the spine of that little scrub here pretty quickly, unfortunately. Shame. Poor little thing. So one nice thing about this particular tree for a leopard, it's difficult from a viewing point of view because there's only certain spots you can see, but for a leopard it's just so much more comfortable than that tree that she had the nyala in. Much thicker branch, and it's nice and horizontal, which means that it's easy for her to just sit up there and not have to worry about comfort. She can be very comfortable for most of the night and have a really good nap up in that tree. It looks like she's starting to pull at the tail a little bit. Often when they eat these scrub hares, they, like most animals, will start at the tail section, and then they eat their way through the sort of rump areas, back straps, ribs, and then onto the limbs and the neck and head. Megan, she's as photogenic as one could ever ask for. She has the most beautiful coloured eyes, does little Tlalamba, and that contrasting against her golden coat and her little pink nose, she is very, very pretty. So she's as photogenic as one could ask for, especially when she's a little rock star like that and just stares straight into the lens. That's when she's even better. But I mean, she really is pretty. I've said this before, she's one of the cats that I think is probably one of the prettiest that we have at the moment. Her mom was also very pretty at the same age. Obviously she's aged a little bit now and her ears are not as perfect, and she's got a few little scrapes and scars, and she's got the herniation of having so many cubs, and so her stomach hangs a little bit, so she's not quite in the same sort of phase of life, but both of them were equally pretty at a similar time. You can't ask for much more though, can you? I mean, a leopard draped over the branches of a massive jackleberry tree is as good as it ever gets, that's for sure.
Oh my word, guys, look. It's a unicorn. I think it's getting to that part of the day. Too much birding, too much sun. Starting to lose my marbles. Sorry, what's it, David? Oh, he says I've already lost my marbles. Well, just like we spoke of earlier with the nerves being within the horn, so that horn will not regrow. Unlike deer shed their horns annually. Antelope through Africa have one set, and throughout their lives that set grows. So this individual will always be with one horn. And you can see now, oh, he's a little shy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be mean. But you can see kind of where the notion of a unicorn could have stemmed from. Imagine that antelope on top of a dune, setting sun. It does have somewhat like horse features, and this one horn could have resembled that of a unicorn. It's a little bit shy now. Alrighty, well, we'll leave him be. We're going to continue west. You can see the setting sun straight in front of us. seismic oasis, do they use their horns to defend themselves? That is the primary, or the main function for those horns is for defense. For male and female, being in an open area like this here, you definitely need your weapons on you to defend yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to go that good. But for the males, such as him now, he would have used his horn specifically for male and male combat. And in the mix of things, his horn might have been a bit weaker, and so it broke off. And that'll never grow back. So yes, they do specifically use their horns for defense, but they also use them for mating purposes as well. Setting sun, always good to know where you're going in the bush. You never want to get lost. I haven't lost anybody this week. David's still with me. But we are driving almost due west into the setting sun.
Oh, lucky Kyle. We didn't have a sunset here, I'm afraid. And the temperature has dropped quite severely. Tristan was right. We should have wrapped up a little bit warmer. Now we're just watching the pride cross in front of the vehicle. They're still playing. All the older cubs have just... Chilla's younger one is a lot smaller, especially when you compare it to the older boys. You can really see the size difference. We're just going to have to try and follow them through the thicket here, and they're going to pop out on our southern boundary. Climbing trees is so much fun. How do we get down, though? That's the question. Coming down is always the hardest part. Okay, BK, are you ready? Sorry. Just going to make sure that none of the pride is left behind. Okay, no, we're good to go. So we're just going to slowly try and follow them through the thicket here.
Well, as you can see, starters was scrub here, and mains is now going to be a dry-aged impala steak, or Dyker steak. I can't see impala. That's what it is. So she's just picking and choosing at will at the moment. And earlier I was telling you that we were going to be in the firing line, and what I'm going to show you right now is what I'm talking about. So if you have a look here, we actually have some of the fur of the scrub here that hit us while we were sitting on the dam wall. She plucked a whole bunch of it, and it came flying down, and so here it is. This was plucked and has landed pretty much slap bang in my face more than anything else. But this fur, as you can see, is quite soft and kind of fluffy in the inside, and then you've got this sort of more coarse fur towards the tips. Now, if you're a fly fisherman, you would absolutely love this, because this would make a decent fly tying material. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to wash my hands properly after this, because it's even matted. If you look here, you can see the fur is a little bit matted from where her saliva has probably touched it, and you don't really want predator saliva on you at all. So we're going to free that to the air and let that go and drift towards the dam, because quite frankly, being hit in the face with it is not as pleasant. We've also moved slightly, and so now we're not in the firing line at all. If she plucks any fur from here, the wind will carry it away from us, which will be quite nice. But it's getting very, very dark this evening. It's unfortunately, like I say, a very cloudy night, so it's going to be a dark one. HP, not a 2-course dinner, a 3-course dinner. And you might be wondering why 3-course. Well, she's got scrub hare and impala in this tree, and she's got nyala in a tree to the south of us at the moment. So she has 3 different kills currently that she is feeding off and bouncing between them. The Nyala is pretty much done, so I suspect that she's not going to come back now. I do apologize if there's heavy amounts of wind. The wind is kicked up all of a sudden, and we are expecting gale force winds this evening, winds that are going to clock as much as 75 kilometers an hour. So it's going to be a very windy, very difficult night. And so if you're battling to hear me and there's a lot of wind noise, like I say, I do apologize about that. Unfortunately, is what it is. And where we are on the dam wall means we've got zero protection from the wind. I think you'll all be interested as well to know that the Talamatis were eventually successful, not with buffalo, but they managed to grab themselves a warthog about 5 minutes ago. So they've also got a meal. So it's just the Nkuhumas that are left, and we can hear lions roaring towards the sort of northwest. So I wonder if it's not one of the evokers or maybe all three evokers also roaring. So they might be around. So those of you that watch the dam cam as well, it's a good idea to pay attention tonight between Tlalamba and all the various lions. Maybe somebody will make an appearance at some point, but it's been a crazy afternoon, that's for sure. Considering the weather conditions, normally when you get wind like this, it is really poor for game viewing. You'll have noticed this afternoon, well, there's no elephants around compared to this morning. This morning there was jam-packed with ellies all over the place, but this afternoon no elephants, and that's all to do with this wind that is howling the way that it is at the moment. They don't like it. They go into the drainages and they just try and get out of it. And so we've had a bumper afternoon, all things considered. This kind of weather is never great for game viewing. So we're lucky, that's for sure. Little Tlalamba seems to be enjoying her meal. That meal must be completely dried by now between the heat that we've had and the wind that's been blowing over the course of the last 2 days, because this has been hanging for 2 days now. The outer part must be almost like jerky or biltong. It can't be very, very wet anymore, but I suppose we as people dry age our things, and so it's a similar concept, except that we don't have to worry about flies and maggots and all kinds of other things landing on our meat if we put them in the right places. But for a leopard's stomach, that really isn't an issue at all. Look at that. Isn't that a sort of happy face? I don't know why when leopards turn their heads up like that and they kind of feed in that way, it almost looks like they've got a smile and a happiness about eating their favorite meal.
Tlalamba's always happy eating a meal, that's for sure. Tristan, you are right. And we're all going to be eating a meal very soon. Are you excited, BK? I am. It's far too cold. Spring made us feel a little bit safe with the weather, and it's thrown me. We had to leave the Nkuhumas, I'm afraid. They reached Gowrie Main, which is our southern boundary, and it's a bit of a no man's land, the boundary line, so all sorts of vehicles can approach, even those vehicles that can't necessarily traverse on this property. So we had to leave them. There's too many vehicles, and yes, we are heading home.
They want to close with the leopard there.
Well, unfortunately, that's the nature of being out in the bushes, that we do have a few technical difficulties from time to time. And so you're back with us here in the northeastern part of South Africa as opposed to the western part. And I hope at Tswalu it's not nearly as windy as it is here. Not as much to hide behind in Tswalu. There is in this part of the world. We have a nice amount of trees and things that we can get in behind when it's really windy. There is not as easy. As you can see, Clallamba's still just going at it. She's just doing what, well, the leopard does when it's got food. She's using those side teeth to be able to shear off chunks of flesh. So she's practicing using her connasils, that she's basically sawing off little chunks, and that's how she'll get through it. At the moment, actually, she was also crunching ribs when I was listening to her just now. It's difficult over this wind, but you can just hear every now and then a bone crack. So because there's not really much meat left on the carcass, it's more bones than anything else. She's just going through the rib sections. So Bruno, she'll eat through tonight, which will probably mean that she finishes quite a lot of this particular impala. The scrub hare, I mean, maybe she'll eat the scrub hare during the night and the impala won't get eaten much, but she's got a really full belly. I mean, she's been shoving meat into her belly for 3 days now. So, you know, she'll probably have, I would say, definitely still be here tomorrow, if no other leopard arrives, and then maybe even into tomorrow night, so tomorrow afternoon still be around. But that depends. Obviously, if lions come here, they'll come and steal this. If another leopard comes here, so in the form of maybe, you know, Mulawati or Tingana or Shadulu or Tandi, any of these cats, they could potentially steal from her as well. So that'll really dictate whether she keeps it until tomorrow. But if it's just her, then I suspect that we'll find she'll still have this killed tomorrow morning and probably into tomorrow afternoon, given that there's still a bit of the nyala in the other tree and the scrub hare that she now has. I think there's enough food to probably keep her for another full day in this section. And then after that, when she's done, she's going to be off onto a serious scent marking mission. After being in one place for 4 or 5 days, it means that she needs to go and start just checking around and making sure that nobody's creeping about. Luckily for her, Tandi was sighted in Torchwood this afternoon, and Shadulu is on an impala carcass quite far to the west, so she shouldn't have too many issues with those two leopards. So it's more just Mulawati or even maybe the prime thief Tingana if he decides to come through, which would be a really nice surprise if he did. So lots to look forward to tomorrow morning, lots to go and follow up on with Talamatis and Nkuhumas being around. It looks promising for an epic sunrise safari. Hopefully the wind just starts to settle a little bit, because if it's blustery like this in the morning, it's going to be a bit hectic. Anyway, it's that time of the day, unfortunately, where we all need to say goodbye to you guys. It's been a absolutely bumper afternoon with the Nkuhumas and Talamatis and Clallamba and the buffalo on Djuma. It seems like lots has been happening. It sounds like some great birding on Tswalu as well. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning on our sunrise safari.
This program features live coverage of an African safari